Hello, gatekeepers. How you doing? Wow, that's too bright. Hold on a minute. All right. How's everybody doing? Um, Probably a crazy question in today's world because everybody I'm talking to is going, I don't know, they're having hard times. They're I'm looking for a string. Hold on a minute. It's crazy. All right, choo choo. Ted, just go ahead and put that seatbelt sign on right now because this is going to be a humdinger of a show. I've had nothing but tech problems all day. I cannot find the light. There it is. That's what I get for having a black cord in a black room on a black desk. Let me see if I can do this in a dark night. So how is everybody? You know, the world's gone crazy. We can either go with them or we can beat them to it. Right? Well, there you go, Ted. Choo choo. All aboard. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in, everybody who is a new subscriber. We've had quite a few of those over the past couple weeks. Although God bless you. And please go out there and hit the like if you can. And I'm going to try, this thing, my dark mode went. Here's the whole thing. I believe that StreamYard re-updated again. And everything changed. That's why everything is like so bright. I've been trying to fix everything. It's just been tech things. So as we go through, I'll be pushing buttons. So you are forewarned. You're forewarned right out of the gate. So here's the thing. We've been trying to get this show together for a while. We had Lynn and Jim together for a little bit. And yes, I spelled Lynn's name wrong on the, just, staple it to the list. And I'll get that extra T out of there somehow, or we'll just use it next time. Your sound isn't working. She's going to go out and come back in. Honey, I don't even see you popping in here. So use the one in your email. God, it looked like it's so bright in here. So hang on. Try that. Is that better? It's a little better. Try that one and come back in, okay? She loves everybody. And she might be coming in on just a little icon because she's had a very bad headache all day. A lot of people are getting headaches and tinnitus and all this other stuff. And there she goes. Now I hear her popping in. So anyway, you want to just start over? Hi, everybody. Welcome in. So tonight we are going to talk about a lot of continue our discussion on communicating with those on the other side. You almost don't want to say, communicating with the dead, right? Lynn and I were talking earlier. Jim and I have talked before. We're all here at this time for a reason. Let's just go ahead and say it right out front. We know this. Hello, Lindsay. Hello, Are You Kidding Me? And Slow. And Vixen Doe, I love you, baby. And Scott, it's life. I love you, hon. How you doing? Sarah, great. Are you on the bus, sweetheart? I was actually talking about you the other day. I said, I've got people ride the bus home and listen to us. And, across the pond and all over the place. It's crazy. And I brought you up, Sarah. So I thought that was kind of cool. And so anyway, like I said, people are really feeling kind of funky, but we just have to remind ourselves, whatever we did on the other side, if you want to go ahead and believe that, and we chose to come back here at this time, we're here for a reason together at the same time. So Lynn and I were talking about it. Like I said, Jim and I were talking about it. We wanted to get together and not just to see the different ways people communicate, with the other side, or we're really going to the next level of when there is communication with the other side. It's not trying to get little spurts of information via EVPs and trying to get lucky, although that's wonderful. It's actually communicating and figuring out what's going on, because as we all know, ghosts have a way of just giving you pieces like you'll get you wonder why they don't just blurt it out. And we talked about that on some of the other episodes with Fred, who the first words that came out of his mouth was denying what he was hearing around him when he died, that he had caused this, and he did not, in his mind. And that was the first thing on his mind, first and foremost on his mind, when he was able to speak. And a lot of times ghosts, I believe, have that problem of not just being able to get that communication, but maybe they're just really trying to burst out that first thing that's on their mind. And sometimes it's misunderstood. And so many other things. So tonight we're going to be touching on all of that, and I invite in my wonderful friend and sometime co-host, and she is. I wanted to say that she was going to be here. She's got the light is bothering her. Like I said, everybody is getting that. They're getting like headaches and migraines and just lethargic and other things. And there's a lot of different stuff going on that could cause that, not just stress and bad news and crazy stuff, but actual physical things. And we're going to talk a titch on that tonight, as far as we can on the inner tubes, but also with this communication, because here's the thing. When you go into this level of communication with others, with spirit, and you create that pathway of communication, whether it's with your spirit guide and then they help other spirits or whatever it may be, it really opens us up and gives us hope, where it reminds us of why we're here now and how we can connect into the tools we need to get through it and help each other through it. And I believe there's a lot of, hey, Jack, welcome in. And hey, Renice, hi, honey. I'm sorry I called you Renaissance all over the last show, but that was my phone helping out. So I love it when tech tries to help me. So I think it's very important, these shows and this communication, because it really does prove to us that there's something else going on and we're not alone. And we're certainly not alone in the battle of light versus dark. So for my bringing in Miss Lynn Monet, and she's wonderful. She's a medium and experiencer. She's an author of multiple books, wonderful Omnipresent series, as well as Colors of Heaven and others. And not only that, I know she has spent so much time as an end-of-life medical caregiver in the field, and I believe she's also gone on to get her doula, I believe it's called. Almost a death guide. It's an amazing thing, and that's in through so many different tribal things, as well as some of the teachings I've had. So without further ado, Miss Lynn Monet, and come in here and say hi, sweetie. She's going to stay in the candlelight tonight, if that's okay with everybody. And come on in here, darling. Can you hear us?
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Love you so much. Well, I hear you perfectly fine. Are you comfortable?
I am. I'm in the dark. So semi-dark.
She's the light in the darkness tonight, sweetheart. That's it.
That lavender idea, everybody, I was talking to Cisco and I was having a terrible time and she suggested lavender. So I had some smudge sticks that are made out of lavender and I was sniffing them, and surely it just eased up so much. I'm a little bit light sensitive still, and I don't want it to come back on me. So, right. I'm going to sit here and sniff my lavender stick.
I said, you go through, somebody calls you and you go, okay, what do you have in your house? If you don't want to leave, what do you have? What can we use? And she had and I said, break up the lavender, the dried lavender, and create that essence and get that oil going in the warmth of your fingers and just breathe it in deep and hold it. We could do so many things. In fact, Lynn is going to give us some pointers on like breathing techniques too, when like stress and anxiety gets, and we need to get re-centered. And Jim was asking about that earlier. Now, speaking of Jim, I had thought when we had Lynn and Jim on, we finally got them together. It was so much hubbub and everything. I thought they had met before. So please let me introduce you, Lynn, because I didn't do it the first time. Jim is wonderful. He's become such a wonderful and dear friend. I met him in doing Keystone State Paranormal Society, wonderful group with Dave Haney and so many others I've met through Jim. And when you have the heart and the intent, you get so much faster, so much further faster, because you really burst into this kind of communication and what's going on the other side, and you just offer yourself into the assistance and helping, much like the Leslie Flint organization that we've been studying over a couple of these, and so many others. So please welcome in my dear friend Jim Wyrick. Welcome in here, sweetheart.
Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing? You look wonderful.
Hi, Jim. Yeah, we're old
Jim,
friends now,
Lynn, Jim.
Yes.
The pleasure's all mine.
Too.
Thank you.
You
and
too.
we're good friends. We go way back now.
I got to tell you, listening, you're talking about how a lot of people are having some issues right now. And
Yeah.
wow, last weekend and this weekend were just amazing on a spiritual basis. I've got so much swirling about me. In other words, dear friends who are really facing life and death issues, dealing with serious cancers. My own youngest granddaughter, she's been suffering from seizures, and now we find out it might be a lot more complicated. She might be just doing, it's a weird cushingoid syndrome that doesn't follow the patterns. And
Oh my gosh.
there's just so much going on. And so I've been sort of in a constant prayer mode on behalf of my friends. I gave two gentlemen today priesthood blessings in church.
Oh,
And yet,
nice.
despite, all this swirling about, I have just been so charged. The Lord has just really just lifted me to a place where I just feel so blessed. We had a sister do a very special musical number on the piano last weekend, and it was so touching. I was crying. I didn't want everyone to see, so I just closed my eyes and turned them to the Lord, and I felt so in tune with the heavens. And we had the previous weekend at the Hoover House, we had a daughter and a mother who had seen us up at Lilydale and had really been impressed by, as Pam, Steve, and I, by our program we had that night. She said it was the best program she'd ever seen at Lilydale. So they came down from upstate New York to come to the Hoover House. And Pam said, you got to go over and talk with them. So I did in the afternoon. And here the lady, the mother had lost her son a number of years ago to suicide. And she was just devastated and still so. And you could see the countenance on her face. And then in talking with the sister or daughter, I mean, they were just so beautiful. The two really beautiful souls. And the Spirit's telling me, you got to try to do a session with them. So I went back Saturday evening. Luckily, Bob jumped in last minute to help me. And I prayed that I could bring her son through because there was so much pain on both sides of the veil. He was distraught because, as it turned out, this family had gone through 6 years of losing so many people. And the pain was so devastating to all of them. But evidently, the son, who was just a wonderful person, he couldn't take it. And it actually drove him to suicide. And not realizing the pain he was inflicting on his loved ones on this side of the veil. So I prayed that I'd be successful in bringing her son through. And we went over that night, and he came through. And oh, my gosh, it was just so wonderful. And from both sides of the veil, there was so much release. And so the next morning, as they were heading back, the mother was telling Pam, she says, I really do feel, I was in concert with my son and just felt so relieved. And they're coming back in September. We have an event, but it tie into the night, because I had talked to you about the Winston Churchill tapes with Mr. Flint. And
Right.
And that whole, we have an adage that I think a lot of Christian religions say, you lose yourself in service to others. And I tell you, you sort of forget your own issues and problems. And so I just stood back and I just marveled with all this going around. And dear friends, I hope, I'm praying. I got them on prayer rolls. One guy's going in for a big biopsy tomorrow. So I'm going to ask the audience, if you would tonight for me, just say a prayer for my friend Terry. He's going in for
Okay, I thought what we could do too is just take a moment. There's so many people in the chat. There's so many people listening that are going to need a little bit of, they're going to need this. So if we just want to take a moment and, say, send some good healing energy to your granddaughter and to Lynn and to everybody in the chat tonight that needs something, because here's the thing. We don't mean that in a small way. When we connect, whenever two or more come together in agreement, And I agree with the healing and the love light that you guys are sending out. I absolutely agree with gathering tonight and coming together to try to, just imagine us all standing in a circle. Just close your eyes for a minute, and you don't even have faces. You have names, you have icons, you have little nicknames that we've had for each other over the years. Just imagine just everybody standing together in a circle, and everybody's holding a candle. And the candle flame is kind of flickering, and the wind is blowing a little, and just as close as we all stand, you can kind of start to feel the energy flow around the circle of everybody coming together. And maybe our light got a little diminished over the week, or bad news, or somebody we care about, is hurting, and we're trying to struggle through that, and giving everybody all this strength. And I want you to take your candle in your mind and just lean it to your right and connect it into the candle and the person next to you. And then that person do it. And just imagine all of these candles, these beautiful white taper candles, and these flames leaning into each other and creating one circle of light, warmth, and fire. And the reason I say fire is because you have to have a fire within you, like Jim is saying, to want to do these things, to do this selfless work to help others, because by gosh, you know how important this is. And you know how important it is to keep the light. So lean in there and imagine that circle of light going around. And then in the center of the circle, as everybody starts to warm up and it gets brighter, all of your pain, all of your people that are hurting, everything is in this circle. All the people, the names, the faces, the loved ones, the person you saw on the side of the road, maybe holding a sign, somebody that just lost their job, and you want to tell them, hey, go out and get two. Do whatever you got to do. Just keep going. One foot in front of the other. Keep going. We're going to put all of that love and light, and just move your light toward the center of the circle and send that love light out there. And do you see what happened? It all came together, and it goes up and out. That's what we're here for. I love you all. Take a moment.
And thank you both so much, and your audience for that. I mean, it means a great deal. But it's so humbling. Now you two ladies, your gifts are just so impressive, and you've been at this for much longer than I have. But
gosh, no, I mean, everybody here has got something, Jim, and it's just as important because it's all pieces to that puzzle. It's all pieces of that. There's not one candle in the circle stronger than the other. All the flames flicker and wave. Sometimes they go out. We lean in, we reach into somebody else, and we've got to. We're so used to, as light workers, being batteries for energy vampires that come in, because that's what we draw. We draw people that need help, the living and the dead. Think about that. And we give because we think we're doing that person good, and we keep getting advice, or whatever it is that's just exhausting because they're not receiving what we're giving. Now you're in the point where you see all this darkness, you see where your light needs to go, and now you feel like you don't have it to give because you've been using it for so long. You have to regenerate your light. It's so important.
And that's the thing. I really, and I appreciate all the psychic mediums I know, and all the gifted individuals for their valuable information, because that's the key. I mean, it just sucks so much out of you where you just diminished, and it's very unselfish on all your parts to be willing to spread that. And that's where I even had a great deal of respect for Mr. Flint. I mean, that guy went to every, he went beyond to try to
for decades, Jim. And see, that was the point. You said something in what you were speaking on about, the selfless giving, everything. That was the whole point. The spirit guides would come through him and say the whole reason they were doing this is because everyone gathered in a selfless way, not to get messages from loved ones. Not that they didn't get those, because they did, but they weren't there for that. They were there for the explicit reason to help a perfect stranger that was just as Hans Holzer put it, just a person in need of help. And if we lived our life like this, I mean, it's so hard to do because you got road rage and the jerk in the blue, whatever, just, cut you off, or you held the door open for such and such and they didn't even say thank you, or you let a car in. I mean, we got them all day long. Those are little things. And you go home and you find out a bill came in you weren't expecting, or something falls off your car, or somebody you care about is sick that you tried to warn and they didn't listen. And you're like, and now you're at the point where you're going, you don't want to say, you certainly aren't in the I told you so mode, but you're in the mode of, oh God, I wish you had listened to me. Now I don't know how to help. You know what I mean? All I can do is grieve with you. All I can do is that. And it's such a difficult time. It's like trying to help an addict who doesn't want to be helped. It's like trying to help a whatever, put it here, a gambler, or this or a that, or someone who is sick that you see them, and there's nothing that you can do because they're not listening. Everybody's going on a different level. The vibrations are changing. Art Bell wrote a book on it. It was called The Quickening. William Cooper talked on about it for decades on his wonderful radio show. I mean, so many people you can point to, from the Bible to you name it. We've been warned. We've been told. Paul Harvey. Here we are. We're in spiritual warfare, and we know what weapons we have. We need to sharpen those weapons, and we need to be strong enough to admit to another light worker, my light is my flame is flickering.
Yeah.
I need some help. I need to tap into your light, because we can try to be so selfless. Listen, we've had big mediums come off of huge shows that were doing great because it was just so physically draining, to the point that if they didn't stop, they were going to be in need of help. And this I know for a fact. So there you go. Lynn, what would you like to say on this, sweetheart?
What I would like to say is prayer is so very important. And to make it even 1,000 times more powerful, it's very, very important that the people that we're praying about are open to receiving, that they're aware that the prayers are coming, so that they can say that they're ready to receive, because there's still that freedom of choice issues. So if they also need to call in their angels and guides and say, I need help through this, and be specific. I need help through these seizures. I need help through my illness, and specify what it is, because a lot of times the angels will stand back waiting to be asked. So it's very, very important. And the prayer is powerful no matter what, but it will be prayer on steroids if they can say in that moment, oh, if you tell them, oh, well, Terry, the whole group of people are praying for you on the internet tonight, and please, be open to receiving. State it. Even
claim
state
it. You have to claim it. You have to claim it in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Yeah. Now others can pray for over others who don't have that ability, like the sick, the infirmed, children, things like that, and that's very powerful. I think that's the exception. But it if someone isn't claiming it, it still surrounds them. Yes. I know it sounds strange, but it still does. Go ahead, Lynn. I'm sorry.
Yes, it does. I'm just saying it's all important. It's all very powerful. It all does work, but to have it work 1,000 times even stronger, if they could be open to receiving it. That's what I was saying. It still works, but it'll be even more intense.
Right. And the circle of love and light, absolutely. Because also you're visualizing, and you could feel it. When you started to feel it, you didn't have to worry about putting a face on anybody. It was just the embodiment of a familiar energy. And that's what you feel when you come in here and you see an icon that you recognize, or a name that you recognize, and instantly you feel better just for that person being in the chat, because you know you're going to smile, or you know that person has a wonderful. It's okay about the caps. Slow is saying, I don't need a medium. Actually, Slow is saying, I don't need a medium. Then I'm sorry. It's just funny because it looks like you're yelling. Then my mom wants to send me a message. She makes herself know. Absolutely. And see, this is it. Not everybody can do that for themselves. Not everybody can connect in. That's a special thing, because like, say something's going on with my son, I usually get it from somebody else. And they'll tell me you can't do it. And whoever's in charge here knows what they're doing, because that makes so much sense. You have so much emotional attachment, like my mom and I back and forth when she was coming to visit me. It took us decades to get that down, because she was popping in. She'd scare me. I'd get scared. She'd get scared. And it was like one of those comedies, like, poof, gone. What? now what, 5, 6 years before this happens again? It's just so funny how we learn together. It was really incredible. But I agree with everything Lynn is saying, everything Jim is saying. And I think it has something to do with that just pure intent. We are past the point of, we're into the layer, the 14 layer cake now, kids, and every layer is something different. And we're fine because we're doing it together. It doesn't matter if you're on the other side of the globe from me. We're doing it together. We're here for a reason. And listening to these conversations teaches us so much, because what Jim just shared with us, do you have any idea how rare it is to have a strength with spirit? You've obviously, we know we have guides that help us get these, get them through, but to bring in the soul of that young man who unlifed himself, if you know what I mean. And that's one of my pet peeves, when people say animals don't have souls. That's number one for me, I think. And the other one is that all suicides can't cross, which is wrong. You can't broad brush anything, period. Jim, agree?
Yeah. And I will, just for the information, this young man had crossed. We didn't have to cross him. But he wanted to hear from his mother and his sister for them to vocalize that they forgave him and all that. He just
powerful
reinforcement. And also he was with, I believe it was his grandfather presented at the time. So that was good. It was just tragic.
Healing all around. And who could say that this isn't wonderful work when you can do something like that for whatever? You said it yourself. I have a different skill. I don't consider myself as having any skills. It's just so weird that I've been just so open to my guides. Just take me where, I'll get coupons. I'll get this. You ask Jim, he's seen it. It's so weird. I'll be like, I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here. Jim will be somewhere else. And I hear Jim yell, "Get Cisco." Here I come, and we're going to help somebody that we didn't even know about, right? How crazy is this? But for some reason, even though you had wonderful people in a circle, all willing to help this little individual, for some reason, they couldn't get to the next level. They were getting all kind of information, couldn't get sometimes you just need somebody to come in. "Hi, honey, I'm a finisher. What can we do?" It's like, and it's just, and I don't even know what I'm listening to what I'm being told by much higher. Look at me. I can't even push the right buttons. You think I could do this without help? So I don't take any credit. The only credit I can take is that I picked my butt up and I did what I was getting bugged to do. And they'll say, "Go here." And it's just like, you're just the right conduit. You're the piece that fits in there that just makes the bridge that goes, okay, their loved ones can get in touch with them now, or their spirit guides can have their attention. They've said their piece. Somebody has loved them through it, because I have that instantly with a lot of these spirits. It's just like, "Hi, honey, how you do it?" Like, I've known them all my life. It's just that, and I had, because I'm learning so much now with these split souls. And I heard a story the other day. It blew my socks off. It's like, if you could ever surprise me in this. And it's not surprising. It's just wonderful to hear. And I'll tell it real quick. It was a wonderful medium. She, goes through the house. She tells, she gets her stuff, and she comes in, and this young man is having such a hard time in this house. But the house is like, he's obsessed with it. It's like and he's losing time. He'll go there to like fix the wallpaper or something, expect to be there an hour. And he's like 5 a.m. and he's, his family's like, "Where are you? What are you doing?" Just obsessed with this. Well, long story short, finds out that the ghost that is haunting the house is the split soul from him, fractured soul. That part stayed, one part went and became him. He comes around, he's reincarnated, he's driving in the car, sees a house, he's called to the house, and he's actually battling with the ghost of him from 100 years before. It's an amazing story. I've heard it similar before, like, you once lived here as someone else, but this was next level, kind of stuff. And what would you guys say on something like that? Surprising, yeah? Jim, go ahead.
Well, it sort of reminds me of a story. I interviewed an individual years ago, and this young man was in the funeral business with his father, and there was the first time they had agreed to handle a cryogenic. In other words, where the person dies and then they take the body and they're frozen in a, and I guess when that happens, and I don't know if it's changed because this is at least like 12 years ago. They had to be there at the hospital before the time of death. And then as soon as the individual died, they had to administer a special chemical into the body, I guess, or just before within some period. And then when the physician, signified that indeed the individual's dead and signed the forms, they had to initiate another chemical. And then they drove the body. The body was released to them. They drove it to the freezing place. And in this case, it was about an hour and 15-minute drive. So the young man does all this, administers the chemicals per protocol. And as he's leaving with the body in the casket in the back, he gets up the road, he said about 20 miles, when suddenly he hears a voice in the back seat say, "Where are we going?" Now, how in the hell the guy kept control of the car, I don't know. But anyhow, so he's looking in the rearview mirror and he sees the body in the casket, but he also sees the gentleman sitting in the back seat. And he proceeds to have a conversation. He goes, "Sir, you signed papers. We're taking you to a facility where they're going to freeze your body." And the guy's going like, "Well, is that good?" And he goes, "I don't know what to tell you, sir. I'm just sort of, I admired the guy. And I swear to God, I really felt he was telling me the truth in all this. That's all I have to go by." And anyhow, so he had some questions and answers with the individual, takes the body up there, turns it over to those people. When he comes home, he tells his father, "Dad, we can't do this again. Something isn't right." In other words, it was this guy was somehow separated, like you were saying. That's just, wow.
It's wild. Lynn, what do you want to say on this? Fractured soul, separated souls. Guy passes 100 and something years later, gets the house where his ghost is haunting and taunting him, and really, I mean, like hitting him while he's asleep and being angry with him, and he has no idea. He just thinks he's being attacked by, a ghost. It's crazy, right? What do you think, Lynn? You're muted, sweetie. If you're talking, you're muted.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
the only hard. No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just trying because anyway, I didn't want you to hear any background noise. So
okay.
Are you saying that the guy originally lived in the home and his own ghost was haunting the house that he then bought and moved into? Is that what you're saying?
As crazy as that sounds, yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yep.
That can happen because we have 6 lives simultaneous at the same time.
It's crazy, but yeah, so I'm starting to believe it.
It could be something that is
no wonder I'm so damn tired.
A bleed through. So yeah, I mean, I believe that could happen. Somebody told me that I was. I know that I was Claude Monet in my last lifetime, but I was told that I was also Anne Boleyn, the queen that was beheaded by.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But there are several people that also say that they were Anne Boleyn. So, we're all pieces of that consciousness that comes down into it in the 6 different places. But yes, I believe, and she still currently haunts the castle. So if I were to go there, or any of these other people who have been affiliated with that at all, I believe that can happen. Sure.
I don't know why it was so easy, well, let's put it in a different way. I think learning about, because going into Gettysburg, Jim and I know the story of a guy who went to Gettysburg, just traveling through as anybody does, really pulled to this one field, winds up taking a couple pictures, doing some things like that, and really felt like an energy came up to him and he heard, "Hello, General," I think it was. And it startled him. So he ran back to the car where his wife was waiting and got in the car. Says, "Get out of here." And he couldn't get this out of his mind. He goes home. He's other things happened to him. I believe he was getting chest pains and things, like he got sharp chest pains, right after this happened, to the point where he thought he was having a heart attack and then went away. He's at the dentist office. He opens a magazine and he sees this general that died at Gettysburg. And I can't remember who it was, but an article in the dentist in a magazine opens it up to this picture. And here's this story of this general who was shot in the chest like 5 times. And it looks just like him. He said, if I look like I was looking in the mirror shaven, and here he was. So, through multiple times, I think he went back like 6 times. At one point in time, he takes a recorder and he gets this recording. And there's these soldiers talking to him like they recognize his soul. This was a guy who was reincarnated. Wow. He had no idea about the general thing, but he started to go back and found out that where he was having the pains was where the general was shot. And all he was drawn to this field in Gettysburg. I mean, there's 100 stories like this. It's a crazy, amazing thing. As soon as we figure we've got some of this figured out, they flip the switch on us. And it's something, it's so crazy. So tonight, what we wanted to talk a little bit about, a couple of things to do to regenerate your light. And then we want to get into the conversations that we picked that we wanted to share with you that for some reason showed us something different, or showed us like, wow, this was really something. And I wanted to, Jim, ask you, I wanted to do something from all 3 of us so we can cover all the bases, and whatever you guys are comfortable with, if you want to do your own at the same time. Lynn, you had some breathing techniques and a couple other grounded things, because we were talking about hugging trees and taking your shoes off and planning stuff, all the things that we normally tell you. But we had some extra one with the breathing, and I thought, Jim, this might help you too, because Lynn, didn't you say we can't do the whole thing tonight because it's like 3 minutes to stay real quiet, but we can give you the idea on how to do it. And I think it's really based a lot like on that Lamaze, where you're, you can really control yourself and the pain. I mean, that's all I used, a couple of times. And it's amazing how you control your mind. And it's no different from, the way zealots trained, or so many different tribal ancestors and different across the globe trained with training for breathing and focus. Dancers use it, so many different things. So Lynn, if you would share that with us, and Jim, if you've got anything like a prayer or a light, prayer or grounding, cleansing thing or anything, there you go. I love that. Well, then you share that with us. Lynn, would you like ladies first?
Okay. What I would like to say is that this is a breathing technique that actually creates new grooves in your mind. And I'd like to say something too. Our minds are very powerful. Our minds can oftentimes even heal ourselves if we are in the right frame of mind in order to be able to do that. Another thing that is often overlooked is that the fact is that not only does the brain have memory, the heart has memory. And a lot of times people don't think about the heart. There was a case with an 8-year-old little girl that received a heart transplant from a 10-year-old girl that was murdered, and she actually identified her killer after the heart transplant. So a lot of times people don't think about the heart. So when you do these breathing techniques, you need to get out of your head and into your heart. You need to close your eyes and you need to focus on your heart. You go into your heart chakra, you focus, and then you breathe in like a count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you breathe out longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. And if you do this for 3 minutes, it's scientifically been proven that it resets your brain and makes new tunneling and things like that. And you can then focus in on your heart with that breathing and ask to heal whatever it is that's going on with you, and to help you with that, and to call in your guides and to do that. And if everybody would just do that, once a day, even for just like 3 minutes or so, a lot of things would change for them. And it's so important to put out there into the the air, the ethers, the universe, whatever you want to call it, what you really, really want. You don't realize how you negate things for yourself, positive things for yourself, by that one moment of oh, well, I could die of this or I could do that. You set yourself up for that failure. You have to see yourself as if you are healthy and you need to move forward. And a lot of the healing doesn't come from your mind. The healing your body comes from your heart. And that's where you need to focus with this breathing. Again, you can inhale all of the way with your lungs in 4. You go, and then you just let it out slower. You see what I'm saying? So
yes, I do. Just doing that, you can feel the difference. I do this at red lights and didn't even realize what I was doing. And that if you did it for 3 minutes, but it really does calm everything. It resets everything. I didn't know about the brain and the 3-minute time. But it makes perfect sense to me because it really does. It seems like it just settles everything, and if you think about it, if you're hyperventilating, if you're having anxiety, everything is try to focus, and do that and take in the 4 through your nose and then out through your mouth. And again, exercising, running, training, long distance training, all of this has to do with breathing. So believe me, we're in the triathlon of life right now. So however, the breathing techniques. Go ahead, honey.
However, for healing work, for people who need to be healed, you need to focus in on your heart while you're actively doing this breathing and literally focus in on your heart. And then once you're in there with your heart, then you ask for it to heal the seizures, for it to heal the cancer, for it to heal the cyst that you have on your elbow. Whatever it is, you ask for that. And the body will start working on it on its own. But again, you have to be careful not to say anything to negate it afterwards. Right. Like, oh, why does this always happen to me? Well, that you just
number one. Yep. I tried so hard trying to talk somebody out of being, I'm going to explain something real quick here for anybody listening. And, and if you were there, you'll pick up on it. I know you will. A lot of times in the chat over the years, whether it's been on radio or other people's shows, and you have to be careful, especially if it's your show. Not so much if you're in the chat and you can have a conversation with somebody there, but you don't know who you're talking to. That's number one. Number two, there's a lot of other things I do too that we're used to having people come in and trying to bait us into saying stuff. You have to be careful for that. I have to be careful because if I say, if you go out and you harvest a certain kind of plant and you put that on something else and it might just help that could also get me in trouble, especially if I use certain words. But the number one thing is when I have somebody in the chat and they're extremely negative, and the words are negative and their energy is negative, I'm pulling energy off of it. And I'm trying to read it and I'm trying to see if it's sincere. And if it's sincere, what kind of a mindset am I dealing with? If somebody in the chat says one thing, is that going to trigger them for, you have to be very careful, not just on the liability side. And, I could care 2 twits about that mostly. But the other side is care for the individual and who and what are you talking to? And again, it's very much like speaking to a ghost when you're speaking to somebody in the chat, because you've got a picture of what you think that person chose to represent their personality or their face. It could be cut out of a magazine. You know what I'm saying? So you don't know by the name. A little bit because you've talked to the person over a couple of months into other chats or something like that. But what if you have someone in there that's just teetering on the edge and you give in to their, oh, woe is me and the I can'ts and everything else? You cannot approach it like that. You have to go out. You got to get in front of that. You got to stop thinking that. Now, how can you talk somebody down off a ledge, so to speak, while in a chat? You see where I'm coming from? And you have everything else. So you have to be very, very careful there. You have to just send out love. You have to first break through that energy and see where you are after you do that. And you have to be careful in how you speak to them. And if you ever see me doing that, it's not because I care. I care so much. I know how to do it because I will not go into, oh my God, that's terrible that this happened. Yep. Happened to me, been there. I know the way out. This is how you do it. You have to stay positive and you have to keep pulling them up and see if they reach for your grasp. If not, you have to be very careful and just tell them you love them. You matter. You're going to get through this. You have to take that step And once you see them take the step, then you can encourage the steps that come after that. Does that make sense? And now you're doing it behind a curtain, anywhere in the globe, and you could be talking to anybody. You see? And that's what it's like when you're paranormal investigating. You go into a house, you think you might be talking to Grandma Sally who had a heart attack in the kitchen. Maybe not. So you have to go by energy, instinct, and you have to take baby steps when it comes to that. So if you ever see me doing that, that's why I'm doing that. And what Lynn is saying and what Jim is saying is so true. I can't tell you how much. I can't do that. You've already cursed yourself. That is a self-curse. And if you don't think, I'm going to say this real quick, and we can go on to conversations and finish up on this if anybody wants to add anything. But here you go. Now, say what you want about tools. I'm real big on tools in my toolbox. I know the tools that work for me because I believe in them, for one. I put my intent behind them, for two, and that's number one. But you also have to use tools that whatever you're fighting also believes in. And this is where you come into problems where people say, well, that's not, hold on, different tools for different things. There's lots of different screws out there, lots of different screwdrivers. You got what I'm saying? But if you don't think prayer works, there's two things here that tell you. Most of the NDEs that I've heard that actually express the understanding of where they're moving and changing a vibration, there's been multiple that could hear the prayers that were coming up in that person's name. They could see them as little lights and little energies that went with them. And they said that when they came upon them, got close to them, they could feel the love, they could feel the warmth, they could hear their name being called. That's amazing. Here's another one. There was a teacher, and I'm gonna try to be real careful here. It was a little gathering of college friends, and hadn't seen each other for a while, and they all did a little reunion or whatever. And one of them was sitting there, what have you been doing? Well, I'm, I got a degree and I'm doing this now. I'm in, I'm in legal this, or I'm a whatever, CEO, whatever. And the one lady said that she'd become a teacher, and she had chosen a different path in life and was very happy in it and chose the dark arts. And basically she was on her way to becoming a full-fledged Satanist, and she was a dark witch. She was working her way onto it. And she said she got lots of practice, and people around the table were taking it all different, and everybody's trying to be polite. And, okay, this, and she's kind of showing off. And in her conversation, she didn't realize that she made one of the best kind of, let's just say, infomercials for love of God there, and for prayer. Because what she was saying was that someone said, well, I don't understand, all that practice and stuff. When you have time, isn't being a teacher this or that? And she said something along the lines of, I practice while I'm a teacher. So when all the kids in the third grade, when I'm up there and they're taking their tests, she says, I'm sitting at my desk slinging spells at them. She says, I'm trying to get them to turn to our side. And I'm putting in, I could tell all the little weak ones and where I'm zapping them, and you can see them getting hit. And later on, they're either get sick or they starting fights and things like this. She goes, but I'll tell you something else. And she said it in kind of a disgusting little manner, the way she put it out there. She goes, I'll tell you something else that really makes me mad, though. She goes, I can tell all the parents have prayed for their kids. And one of the girls looks up and says, really? How? She goes, because if I try to hit them with a spell, she said, I literally see, and you can see the energies. Some people can see them a lot. I'm starting to be able to. And she says, you can actually see a ring of light surround that child. And she says, and there's nothing I can do to get through it. Tell me prayer doesn't work. Pray for your children. Pray for the people you love. Have y'all ever heard that one? That's incredible. On so many levels.
It's so true.
Go ahead and you guys finish up with your thoughts on that for keeping your light going and grounding, any of that stuff. Go ahead. Lynn, you want to go?
It's so important too for people, you talk about the birds and the bees, and you talk about, good touch, bad touch, and, setting boundaries with your kids, but people don't talk about how to spiritually protect themselves. Because not only are the spells being flung at them, as sensitive as the stages that we're going into with some of this energy shifting, people are going to be picking up even the negative thoughts. If somebody's jealous or, oh, gee, she's got ugly shoes, all of those things, and they will hit them in the same way. They will feel it. They'll pick it up. Although the black magic is more dark and a little bit more, it's more damaging, but they need to be able to protect themselves. They need to also understand that they can say a prayer and call on the angels to surround them and protect them throughout their day to prevent anything like that. You know, they can envision mirrors facing outward all around them so that anything that anybody tries to, even negative thoughts, they're mirrored back to them in that way. And again,
Yes.
you do this mentally so that it's strong, but they've got to know. I mean, we live a parallel life with spirits. So kids too, you know, they need to know how to protect themselves. And the main thing is too, there's an excellent repellent, even in the case of spiritual things, is simply to radiate like a sonar coming from your heart. Again, that heart chakra, like a sonar of pink love light into the room or at the person. It kind of, if they're a person that's a dark, they will shirk away, and it will weaken their abilities to do things to you. If it's a person that's upstanding, even if it's a spirit, like if it's your mother or somebody and you're not sure, if you send it love and it's of the dark that's mimicking your mom because it wants you to invite it to stay, since it has to have that happen, it will shirk off if you start sending it love, whereas your mother will stay.
Sharpen your love sword, people.
Yeah. So and it works with reptilians. It works with anything negative at all, which I have found, because some things do work with spirits and some things that don't. Those same things don't work with elementals. So you have, but this works with everybody.
Isn't that great? And what is it? What's the base of that? Love light.
Love light from your heart.
From the first show I ever did, the first time I turned on a microphone, that was my message. And I'm still giving that message, you know, a decade and something later. Jim, what would you like to say on that, sweetie?
Well, I think on a very basic level, and you were giving me advice for a long time. So much of it is being very careful of what content we put in ourselves, what we view, what we hear. And for the longest time, you know, I'm a very political person. I've really shifted way off of that because that is a losing field. But I think my spirit guides took care of it. You know, how you're saying, sort of.
I told him. I said, he's not listening to me. All right, come on. He's not listening to me. Do something. An hour later.
Ever since I got blown off of Facebook by whatever, it really has allowed me, I think, to focus more inward, be in tune spiritually. And so I'm not having to overcome outside stimulus in that sense.
It drains you. It can be used for good and it can be used for evil. And it's electronic. So whatever you're looking at, you're absorbing it. And if you don't feel like you're strong enough, people don't do it. Dip in, say hi to Aunt Grace and get out. Don't get that phone call. Don't answer the door. Don't deal with the letter. And I'm not saying don't deal with business. That's important. Of course you have to, but get in, get out, you know, and put this protection on you before you do it, because a lot of time you're just not strong enough. And one of the number one things that get us is we forget that we are vulnerable and how fragile we are. And it's our very light and the intent we're walking in that gets us the strength. That's why I like tell people, you're telling me that you know, you believe this and this, but you're doing this and this and this and this. And you're just, you have to stop and regroup. I mean, we have a saying in the military, stop and regroup. And that's what Lynn is saying. You know, you've got to find your way to do that. The bubble. I've gone into work and done that in the car right before I go in. You surround yourself with this golden bubble of light, and you're kind of walking with it, and you're thinking, I'm a golden bubble of light, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, I look like a golden bubble, you know, bubble light. And I walk in, and this person that's always negative and this and that, and she's like, you won't believe it. Blah, 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 blah. It's one of those. I'm like, you know, and she comes towards me. And she starts to say something. She got like all discombobulated, like she forgot what she was going to say. She just turned around and walked away and went, whoa. But
that
it
is
works.
So true.
It so works.
It does work. And I totally agree with what Cisco's saying and with what Jim has mentioned too. And in addition to that, if it's a volatile situation, you send love light into it and you'll start to see the energy shift. It may not be in that second, But let's say that you have a coworker that you
see it as confusion at first.
Yeah, you just can't stand. There's something about them that really, really bugs you, and they're constantly goading you and trying to set you up for whatever reason. And you can turn that around by radiating that love to them. It shifts something. And I personally have found it again and again. I mean, I've had combative even patients that have been combative, and sending them that love light and radiating that out as you enter the room. They'll hit everybody else, but they're not going to hit you. And then they eventually they calm down, you know? So yeah.
Do something also. I'm getting, you guys need messages tonight because that was loud. I'm getting to make a physical force of where you want the energy to go. Remember last week or the week before we were talking about a case where somebody just got tired of being badgered by this thing. Instead of letting it just scare them to death, they just gathered up all the energy and just went, get out. You know, they yelled, and the force of energy sent in that direction actually made the entity back off. You know, I mean, it came back weeks later. It wasn't gone forever, but it backed away, and it gave this person, wow, I got some strength here. You bet you do. First of all, they're not the only ones with bloodlines. Let me tell you something. If you look back to your ancestry, there were other light workers. There were other people that passed this along. And if you look in other lifetimes that you may have had, a lot of times you were building up for this, you know, and people wonder, we've talked about multiple times, why does this always happen? And why do bones break and hearts break? And this happens and this happens. How are you going to build a warrior if you don't put them through some tests, if they don't run through the gauntlet? So when you're sitting there wondering why you're going through something, and maybe why you're going through something again and again, why does this keep happening? Well, you're not getting the message, whatever it is. They'll repeat it until you get it, because you told your spirit guides that you were willing to walk into the spiritual warfare as a light worker, you loony bean, you know? And here we are. And now we've got the armor, and if we forget how to use a piece of equipment or a tool or how to shield ourselves, we're here to meet to figure that out. Because I'm telling you, I've gotten hit. I forget to put up protection on one thing, and then bam, 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 and I wonder why I'm so drained. And it happens to all of us. Go ahead.
Another that I found helpful, and I'm by no means an expert, and oftentimes I'm remiss in doing it, but it's always helped, is what we call harmonic resonance therapy. In other words, my wife is big into feng shui, and we have all the, feng shui cures, for various things. And they have those bowls that you can, gives a tone. But you can actually go online on YouTube, and they'll have recordings. Some of them are 20, 30, 40 minutes, whatever. There are certain harmonic frequencies that each one hits a different part of the body and causes different things. I just like 432, 528, 967. There's even more than that. And what happens with that, it actually works on the cells within the human body. And in that, it actually increases our energy, our mental clarity, and it actually is regenerative. And so it works on the subconscious level. So sometimes you might have something on that level that you just can't clear out with, the usual fare. And so get 20 or 30 minutes, get in a comfortable place, get yourself in a nice, comfortable chair, try a different couple resonance, see which one seems to speak best to you. Relax. Yep. And it's amazing. You come out of that. Sometimes you might even fall asleep. That's okay. Your body takes it in. When it's done, I mean, you really feel invigorated. And it, like I said, it even works on the subconscious level.
That is so true. Those Tibetan singing bowls, in addition to all of that, I totally concur with Jim on everything that he has said. In addition to that, if you have attachments on you that are not anchored in, it will take them off as well. They hate the sound of the Tibetan singing bowls because of the frequency, the heavenly frequency that they resonate within the body, creating the cells to vibrate. And every once in a while you pick up a little something in the grocery store that doesn't belong to you, and you come home, it will take those things off.
Oh, they even have now. I haven't actually tried it or purchased. But I understand they even have little mechanical devices now, which you can hold in your palm and again trigger this internal resonance as well. I personally find it just as well to throw on a YouTube video and let it play at a nice amplification and just totally relax to everything. And
Yep.
and then like I said earlier, I'm a fond of crystals and minerals. There again, I think anybody checking out, I think you want to go actually get the specimen, hold it in your hand or whatever, see how it reacts with you. So what might work as a grounding for someone may not work for someone else. I've tried various crystals and that and come up kiss and given them to our, psychic medium and work great with her. That's wonderful. But particularly, I've always loved the Crystal Bible labeled it Super 7. And essentially what it is, it's 7 different minerals within the same matrix. And you get the valuations of each different item, plus the combinations also have their own properties. And if you'll dial that up on a search engine and look at it, it'll go through them. Now, I'm going to put a word of caveat out. For the longest time, Super 7 was only found in a small little portion of a mountain range in Brazil. That mine has been flooded now for years, and it hasn't been accessible. So there's other things which don't have the full combination. Maybe they've got 5. There's one that has 6. And they're good. They all have their thing, but it isn't Super 7. So if you're getting the Super 7, be sure you get it from someone reputable that you trust or a friend, some metaphysical person who, you trust, because there's a lot of, like, I call it fake Super 7 going around right now. It's not particularly expensive. I mean, $15, $20 buys you a beautiful specimen. And this is the one I carry with me to give you an idea on size. And if you hold it up to the light, you can see all the various matrices inside. But I have a giant block about like that I used to use for extreme circumstance. But try the metaphysical route with some of these crystals and minerals as well, and familiarize yourself. Some of them need to be cleansed. Super 7 does not have to be. It cleanses itself, so you don't have to worry about that aspect. But that's what I've used. And of course, Cisco's thing about hugging a tree is really, really good. No, I don't have you off.
It's true. It's true, because here's the thing. If you take off your shoes now, Jim and I have had so many things going on with trees. I mean, the last time we went to Gettysburg, I asked the spirit guides to give me the tree that was willing to take all of our energy and
that was wild.
From us, I know, through the ground, through its roots, and regenerate it and give us back positive energy. Basically, filter our bad stuff for us. You have to have permission.
Was a dozen of us or so that day?
Oh yeah, at least
ground.
It was amazing, and everybody left feeling so much better. People actually came up where they were limping and walked away and didn't even realize, they're laughing and carrying on, didn't even realize that they had left their stuff behind. And it's that kind of thing. And it's not me, it's just, I'm a vessel to be, I'm willing, for that.
Bob still has a very strong remembrance of that day and how we felt before and after. That was a neat experience. Yeah, and it was so cool. And this tree, a friend of ours has Unseen Paranormal, Eric, Roger was with him, and he's an arborist, and he said, how did you pick that tree? And because we're standing on the balcony now at the Wyndham in Gettysburg, and we're looking out over this tree in the parking lot, and you can see each tree was, having a struggle to live, through the exhaust and, neglect or not enough water or something. And he said, do you see that that's the only healthy tree in the whole parking lot? He said, how did you find it? Because I'm seeing it from my angle, my vantage point from underneath, just walking around, and go, show me. I'm following the birds. They're showing me
They take me, and it was wild. And everybody walked away feeling better. People, some of the pain was alleviated, anxiety, all kind of things. And all that is just an intent and a gathering and people coming together. But when you hug a tree, you're basically asking it that, say, I have some energy that needs to be recycled. And he asks it permission, and you'll know whether it's right or wrong, or you might get a feeling like, no, over here, because this is a healthier tree that can handle it or whatever. And go with that feeling. Take your shoes off and just hug it, and just imagine everything just coming from your crown chakra all the way down, out your feet, into the ground and into the roots of that tree. And then you got to pull up positive energy now. And like I said, you can do that with doing the shower with the water and stuff too. We have to have some physical stuff sometimes, but the tree really does make a difference. We've been doing it for years. Tree huggers. We're tree huggers. And that's great. But now, Lynn, it was so interesting to talk to you about the communication, because we talked a little bit about the differences between, we kind of learned a little bit about what that direct voice medium was, where the medium, in this case, it was Leslie Flint, actually using ectoplasm and energy and his psychic ability, along with the agreement of the others in the circle in the room, using their energy and the spirit guides helping to almost create vocal cords for these spirits to come in. Some were earthbound, some were spirits that, were back and forth. They had gone across and wanted to come because they felt like they had something to say. And it was absolutely amazing. Of course, that's different from a trance medium, who will allow the spirit to come in via their spirit guide and use their body and their own vocal cords, as in, many others that you've seen that go into a trance. There's so many other points of communication. I've got one I'm going to show you tonight. But Lynn, you've experienced this yourself, by, what you can see, especially End of Death. And you've shared a lot of those stories with us. You also shared the story of a couple of the ones of the Leslie Flint, tapes and things that soldier. Could you tell that briefly again, or another one that might have struck you?
Yeah, that one really struck me, because he was talking about how he was actively in the battlefield, and he was running with his gun, and he was, all of a sudden he's running, and he runs right past the guys that they were fighting. And he's kind of wondering why they're not shooting at him, why they're not grabbing him, why they're not, trying to get him in some way. And he runs right through them, and he's kind of like, well, this is, kind of weird. They're fighting. They've run past me to fight. And then as he continued on, he ran across a friend of his who had passed away a short period of time before, standing in uniform, telling him, "You're dead." And he was in denial about the fact that he was dead, because death does not hurt, just so that anybody knows. And we don't die. We just shed our skin on our bodies, and we just keep on going. And like Jim has mentioned too, none of us here are experts. We're all learning from each other. So, these are bits and pieces that we've learned. But that is the perfect example of, for instance, that is a sudden death. And a lot of times the sudden death, they'll, if they do realize that they're dead, they start bargaining. But in his case, he just shed his body and kept right on going. He didn't even realize to even miss a beat. He didn't feel being shot. He didn't feel anything. He just kept on going. And of course, his friend had to introduce him to the spirit world on the other side.
And it's credible. They always know the one you need to see. One of the ones that I remember hearing too was similar to that. But this one, again, in a war, didn't realize the person he had talking to had died. He walked them across, and they were just walking, and they just kept walking and going up and up and up. And before he knew it, it was over land that he didn't recognize, but it was beautiful. And he walked by all these houses down this little road. And he said, as he was walking with his friend and talking to him and just kind of like looking around, he's like, this feels really welcoming and warm. He sees a woman like outside of a little gate, like a little picket gate, like water and flowers, whatever. He walks up to, his friend walks him towards her, and he feels like she's familiar and he knows her, but he can't really place it. It's just the familiar energy he was walking into, and the love and the kindness. And as he's sitting talking to her, actually going into her little cozy cabin there. She got him a drink and everything else. And she sat down and explained to him. And he said, why didn't my loved ones come to meet me? And she said, well, they did. They were in all the houses you walked by when you felt all that love, but they felt like you weren't quite ready to see them yet. And you need to go through this little piece over here first. And I'm the one that's going to take you through that. So you can heal a little bit before you have all that. So it's not so overwhelming, but they're all around you. And it was so cool. And it's like, the thing is it's all individually different, and what frequency you go out on, what you're carrying with you, what's anchoring you. If you are being anchored, is it anger, hatred, envy, fear of what's on the other side? So many different reasons. But like Jim and Lynn both said, it's also free will. You have to give that, just here while we're living too. You have to give the permission to spirit guides to help you. They can nudge you, they can bump you, they can try to give you clues, but until you say, okay, please help me, and make it so I understand what you want me, what I should do, or help me through this or whatever. Because they're not going to do it for you, but they're not going to do anything if you don't give them permission to help you. And it's not just a one and done. It's all the time. It's just like sage, you don't tell me that, well, 5 years ago I gave him the permission. No, you have to keep reiterating. Oh, we just lost Jim. He'll be back in. But you have to keep kind of reiterating it, and yes, listening to raising your frequency in any way, singing a silly song, dancing barefoot in the kitchen, like I always say. Here he comes. We dipped out. Did you go under? Did you get the undertow get you?
You know what? Weird.
What happened? No, it's probably not.
I was trying to type in. Let's see. Now start again. Not to. When we were going to do this show last week,
mm-hmm.
I had been doing an experiment. Like I told you, I've been in a pretty strong spiritual state for well over a week. So I actually tried to do a personal table thing, asking Leslie if he's around, give me any kind of clue. And
wow, that would be great. Go ahead.
I didn't. I was reading up on some of his life and some of what others had commented on, and I sort of asked him. I said, "Can I get some kind of statement or whatever?" And that's why I was typing that in. The message I got from him. And then the whole thing popped out. I don't know what happened.
Wow. Well, maybe that's his way of saying, hey, we're here. Because listen, we've done 3 shows, and I think they're usually around 2.5 hours or something. It's definitely long form. So, on talking about him, and right away when I opened it up, it was like, throw out all that stuff you're hearing about people being discounted and this and this. This man gave decades to this. Miss Green and Miss, I think it was Mr. Woodward. So many of these people dedicated their lives and their talents and their time to trying to get these messages out, as well as the spirit guides and the spirits that were. My favorite part is the spirits that had crossed over, bringing in the earthbounds to talk to the people in the room, just to absorb that good energy and that that love and the kindness and the understanding. And isn't that what we're doing when we're in there trying to communicate? I know you do, Jim, when you're going the table tipping.
I think rather than type it in, I don't know what went on, But let me read. This is sort of the message I got when I did that. It was really, really pretty neat. It was a wonderful experience. And when I do the table tipping, I really feel some of the energy of the person I'm in contact with, and I do get a snapshot of what they're about, their goodness, or their dilemmas, or their sadness, or whatever. And he was such a pure spirit. I mean, it was really, really magnificent. And anyhow, this is what I had written down, that my impressions. I put, we are dying every second of our living day. We are all gradually getting closer to life eternal, but we are all spirits here and now. We do not recognize generally this fact, but our intelligence, our personality, the part of us which is so dear to those who love us, our friends and loved ones, the reality itself cannot die. That's what I got.
Now, from Leslie Flint, the direct voice medium, who passed, I think, in 2000, maybe 2003.
Yeah, it was early 2000s. Yeah.
Right. And again, I like to reiterate on how much, when somebody dedicates their life to this, and then somebody who did decades, and then they get piled on with all this, that person's been debunked. That person's been, they did this and they did that, because one thing in a headline or in a comment or on a show or somebody said, here's the thing, decades of their life and going through physical taxing physical things, sicknesses, things like that. I know mediums that have been put in the hospital because they cleansed a house, or had to battle something, and being attacked. To us being attacked, I have to do stuff on the equipment and everything else, because while we're sitting here trying to put out light, there's people trying to shoot dark stuff at us, to zap us for that. So you got to block that. There's been times where I got almost knocked out doing a show, and I'm fighting it, and you guys are wondering, what is she doing? I'm like, I'm fighting it because people they don't want us doing this. This is spiritual warfare.
And I'll tell you something else in that very vein, Cisco. Something else came through when I was doing that, and real thought. And I mean, I don't know if it was me, something I've been pondering. I don't really think so, but with all this A1 now, all this artificial intelligence, I really think we're going to be in a sticky situation, because they can, literally, they can create anything with this artificial intelligence. So you take anybody cynical, this is going to add to the disbelief in the world. We're talking about spreading darkness, the cynical aspect of all this, where unless you yourself have put forth the effort to connect with spirit, or to try getting an EVP, or to take a picture, and then you get something, then hey, it was just me, and suddenly there's a guy standing next to me. You didn't fake it. But unless you actually are directly involved in that, I think we're going to come at a very critical point where everything's going to be in doubt, no matter how, in other words, they're trying to reach us and they're trying to communicate with us. We're always going to have the doubters. We're always going to have the cynics.
Right.
I don't worry about that. I'm not
I don't either.
Anything to anyone, but to the world, I think the A1 creates a great threat, because you literally can, they're talking about, you could take your enemy and make a film of him murdering someone, and then next thing you know, the guy's getting arrested and stuff.
Right. Now, there's, at the same time, there's filters, just like there have been for us, because you remember Jim and I used to talk about the black vault and stuff like that. There's going to be stuff that, you can run it through. Tin Eye is another one. If you ever have a doubt about a picture or something, like, run it through Tin Eye. It'll tell you the first time it was ever on the internet. It's also a good thing to use. But here's the thing. I want you to depend on your own tools, because your tools go wherever you go. You might not always have access to electric or this, or, get a book. Don't just download it. Get the book if it's important. If it's instruction manuals for something, or how to, your car manual, how to fix that, or how to can something, or whatever it may be. And if it's important to you, print it out, write it out, do whatever. And it also helps you learn it. But, you can make sure you have that, but you also have to have that with your tools, and you have to be able to bring those with you. So what, the number one thing is to remember that that's dark. This is light. Light beats dark. Light beats dark. And if I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're bringing in all this stuff, and they're kind of arguing with me about this, Cisco's gotten very adamant over the past decade. It's just like, look, I don't have time for this. Light beats dark. Light beats dark. I don't care what flavors you add in between it. If it's negative, if it's below the line, if it's negative, if it's hurtful, if it's not of the light. And the light is going to scare away the dark, just like Lynn said. You could just about, push off anything, whether it's a black-eyed kid or anything else, with that happy light, because they don't know how to deal with it. And that goes for the living as well. It really does. You know, if you ever notice, like if you're real nice, a good customer service manager, because I've been one several times, you're talking on a tone and you're trying to keep your level here. And you're like, yes, ma'am. And you're already agreeing. There was times where I had somebody just losing it, just I've already returned their money. I've already printed out the receipt. Their thing and the pen is in my hand for them to just sign it, take their money and go. And they're still telling me what the problem is. I've already solved it. You're going to have people like that where you just keep trying and you keep trying and it gets very taxing, but you're keeping your level here. It's like, look, honey, I'm calling you honey, so I don't call you what I really want to call you. And then we're going to get into something because you have to keep your level down. You know, and if you ever notice good customer service manager, they'll absolutely go in and they'll assess the problem. They'll find the solution. And then they just try to guide you into getting the hell out of their face. You know what I mean? It's like, let's fix it and go, you know, next, because you're trying to keep a calm thing. But good bartenders do that. Good, you know, people who run bars can see before, they can feel it before it pops, you know, and they can go in there and they can de-escalate the situation. You need to be that. Why do you think this sneaky old codger here puts mysteries on during the week so we can get through our Mondays and Tuesdays maybe a little bit better? Not just because I have the time then, which I try to do, but it also keeps your discernment sharp. You know, doing, you know, crossword puzzles and things like that, trying to solve a mystery, looking at short crimes and getting all the facts and try to discern, because it's going to help you discern through your day the next day. It's going to help you. What Jim said, you've got to really be sharp and you have to keep those filters sharp. Lynn and I were talking about it today because look, if you don't exercise that stuff and you don't keep that stuff sharp and play chess and do all these things, you're not going to be able to discern when some of these mimickers or fakers, or, you know, to discern through what might be happening in your neighborhood or in your state or your country. You know, you have to be able to see through the lies, and those filters will become so good. You'll feel it, you know.
Just,
go ahead,
you
Jim.
know, along those lines, I mean, and again, not to get into politics, but we look at probably the number one thing most people's attentions is riveted to is the situations on our college campuses, and look behind the scenes and look at the misinformation. I mean, a lot of people have actually gone out, tried to talk to the various people on an up and up level.
They don't have a clue why they're there.
It's very apparent they have no facts. I mean, they really don't know what the hell happened.
It's always the same, and you always look. Here's a way to sharpen your filter. Who has the power? Who benefits? Who has the power? Who benefits? If you're looking at the JFK assassination, who had the power to change the route in Dallas? Who had the power to not put the bubble on the limousine? It wasn't him. It wasn't JFK. They said that because that's what that group did in the Secret Service and other people that were involved. They just blame the guy who can't defend themselves, or, you know, pass it on to, you know, oh, it was Bobby. Well, who? You know, where's he at? Oh, he's not here anymore. Right. And they just pass it on. And they expect us. They have been trying to get us in this complacent kind of wave and get us so confused and so tired of trying to keep your head above water that you don't see the sharks in it anymore. Honey, I see the sharks coming a mile away. And I can tell you right now, the best way to keep your everything we're saying, and so much more we've forgotten, because this is not the be all and end all of how to get through this. I just light, peace, dark. You know, you can add all the flavors you want in between there, but that's the way it is. You know, and as long as you keep remembering that, you know, you're sitting there, and instead of this is a test I want to give you. I sent you guys in to look at some of the transcripts, and I want to talk about that. And said, which one were you drawn to? Did you see anybody that you liked? Did you hear anything that resonated with you? But if you're in traffic and that's where you kind of lose it, or you have to deal with somebody in the office and that's where you kind of lose it, stop for a second. Do a little bit of that breathing technique where you just say, I'm going to breathe in the light and going to breathe out the negative, and then send something forward to that person you were just angry at, and send them a love zap. Send them a love dart, and send them like, you know what? I don't know what you're going through. I love you. I'm going to send it to you. You can go on. I forgive you. Get used to saying that. Get used to saying that now while you're alive. I forgive you. Because if you haven't seen the ravine yet and you don't understand the power of forgiveness, and you're going to hear a little bit of it tonight when I play my story that I wanted to share, you're going to hear it. This is anchoring you. You're going to get anchored. You're going to get anchored here. You're going to get anchored to that issue. You're going to get anchored to it to where you have to go home and do circles, and you have to say, you won't believe what she said. I feel like I could have said this. And then light workers will go, I should have said this. I should have said that, because the energy has to dispel itself. It has to find a way out. Energy manifests in different ways. We know that through PK. We know it through, a lot of people call these poltergeist energy, things that were never living, that are just energy that comes together and actually becomes a living thing. Your energy has to go. So you direct your energy, take control of it, breathe in and breathe out, and put out a love dart, even if it hurts, because by the time you get to 1 or 2 or 3, you're going to feel better. Because you know damn well that if you had said what you're telling your dishes, or you're kicking your washer, or your poor cat that hears about your day when you come home, you're not going to believe what she did today, girl, and your cat just looks at you like, okay, I'm going to sit here because I know if I do this, I'm going to get treats. We're going to watch a movie. Your cat's just there. Your dog, or whoever, your poor spouse, somebody, you're telling somebody. But if you had said the thing you said, ask yourself, would you have really felt better? Because here's the thing that light workers learn to know, sometimes too late. No, you're not. You're not going to feel better, because you're going to feel bad that you said that. Because here's the thing. You're never going to make them feel the way you want them to feel, because they're a different person. You're never going to hurt them the way they hurt you. You're never going to get them to understand that they hurt you, unless it's somebody that really cares and wants to listen to your dribble and say, this hurt me because, and they're willing to listen. You might get somewhere that way, but not with a stranger. They don't care. Most people aren't going to care anymore. And you have to stop worrying about that they don't care. You have to care. You have to care how you're treating yourself, and how you are accountable for how you carry yourself through this lifetime. And if ghosts don't tell you that, you ain't paying attention. Go ahead, guys. Anybody want to say anything before we share Churchill?
No, I'm good.
Lynn, you good, sweetheart?
I will say to Lynn, I'm going to try that breathing thing in the morning. I'm going to start doing that. 3
minutes, Lynn says.
Yep.
Lynn, are you good, sweetie? We're going to pull up Churchill, and I'm going to grab some hot water for my tea. So I'm got right here. I'm going to share again, if I can here.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, you're fine.
Jim, is your granddaughter a brunette?
Yes.
Okay. I'm connecting in with her in a big way. So I kept wondering who the brunette was with a head issue. Cisco, I wanted to ask you, there was another subject that you and I were speaking about earlier that we were going to say in code. Is it okay for me to document it in the chat?
I was going to show a picture of it.
Counter. Okay.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. I got you. I'm looking for it while Jim's telling his story. I'm going to see if I can't link it up on my phone and send it over to the chat, and then also screen share it, because it's something that we can show, but we probably can't say. And I've kind of worked out a way that I can talk about it. Good. Because we don't want to lose the whole channel, but I don't want to go another night without putting out this information. And I highly recommend you guys go out and research it for yourself. And if it's something you're not, that's cool. But I have to say it, because if you're feeling stuff, there's a reason for that. But Jim, you go ahead if you'd like to start and talk a little bit about it. I just put the picture up here so you can. But do you need anything else, or you just want to go cold turkey?
No, I'll just go cold turkey.
I'm going to get some hot water. Go ahead, baby.
Yeah, for anybody watching, I'll key in a couple things. If you go to this website that Cisco has on, the Leslie Flint Trust, there's a screen where you'll see a number of famous individuals, and all you have to do is click on that, the various individual, and it'll take you to where you can download and listen to this person purportedly speaking through Mr. Flint by the mechanisms that Cisco's talked about. The reason I chose Cisco is looking through those people. I'm pretty well read on Mr. Churchill. He was always such a prominent figure, maybe one of the most prominent figures of the 20th century. And so I'm pretty well read on his life. Pretty well read on a number of speeches he made and things like that. And of course, the struggles in that critical point. And so I, with that background, I wanted to sort of listen to then this tape with him coming through with Leslie. And it was really interesting. First off, as far as the voice, pretty damn good. I mean, going from a historical base, when you hear Churchill in some speeches, his voice was very good. I mean, I would have to say that Mr. Flint was an expert ventriloquist to have tried to reproduce all that in the extent. But what I was really keen on, not so much how the voice sounded, but the content of the voice and sort of the way it worked. And first off, just wanted to say a few things about Churchill, the man. Basically, in life, he did have a few stints with mediums. One of the things Mr. Churchill had was a huge Moldavite necklace. And anybody familiar with Moldavite and the powers of Moldavite, Queen Elizabeth II also had a very large Moldavite, very large, very precious Moldavite necklace as well. And so I don't know, there's really nothing written about how he used this or whatever, but I can sort of see him gaining some strength from that. Now, in his position, you're not going to be promoting the fact that you had a meeting with the medium or whatever, because then they're going to be labeling you. But anyhow, he was in this presentation. He basically said that he verified about the continuation of life, eternal life. And that's a theme that we constantly get when we contact energies and spirits by the table tipping. He talked about the reality of self and the reality of spirit that can be overcome. And when you look at how he was able to maintain himself in such dire circumstances, though from 1940, as he got to power, until well into 1943, it was very much in doubt whether England was going to survive. And he wasn't even, when he first ascended to be prime minister, he had a very lukewarm reception in the House of Commons, even by his own party. They didn't even give him a standing ovation or anything. So he was very much a man isolated. He did strike up a friendship with the king, and through that, the king was a very large backer. He was scared of Mr. Churchill initially, but later came to really trust him, and the two became very close friends. In this talk, you can see the reflection as he's looking at issues that affect us. He talked.
Yeah, this is huge too, because again, they have to go through a soul cleansing and they have to see everything. So if this person said one thing that caused harm to another, they have to understand that, and they have to go through it, forgive themselves. They have to understand why at the time their soul chose to do that. All of this is taken care of on the other side through enlightened beings that walk you through it, and that you judge yourself when you're doing that. And his opening statement here, Jim, there are times that it must be very difficult for people to understand. We're in them, babe. As a matter of fact, when I was on your side, though I didn't make a practice of it, I did sit with mediums. I thought it wisest not to make it common knowledge. And during those difficult years, I had one or two very interesting experiences. I was helped in so many directions anyway. I mean, it's just, again, when they go through and they can come through and speak like this isn't the only time Churchill's ever come through. This was one of the times where one of those people that had come in several times because they felt like they had something to say that we might be able to use here at this time, or, you know, at that time it was in the late 60s, right, Jim?
Yeah. And he reflects in there a profound respect for the Russian people, because really, if you analyze World War II, I mean, the Russians paid as heavy a price as anybody. And, but he also laments the fact that leadership is sorely lacking. Like they're all caught up in their own little worlds, and he was no fan of Stalin. I mean, there was actually a point as Germany was falling, he recognized, along with several others on the American side, that the Russians were soon to become our enemies, and he actually went before a group of the elite, the military men and all that in England, and said, "Look, we're going to be fighting these people sooner than later. If everything's here in place now, is there any way we could win a war with Russia?" And basically, he was told no. I mean, England was pretty much down to bare bones. Their resources were shot. Their men supply, their army, they were on their bare bones. And so there really wasn't any way they could challenge the Soviet Union, especially at full strength like they were at that time. But he recognized what a problem would be. And in this, he sort of laments the fact that on the heels of this, we've just purged the earth of this horrible evil, the Nazis, and how, because of the failures of leadership, mankind squandered a wonderful opportunity to bring advanced peace and prosperity into the world. That, to me, just speaks so much of Mr. Churchill, that kind of viewpoint, that kind of attitude. So that really struck me so much.
And also who he's become now, too. What did they learn after being here? I know of one very famous medium. You might like this, Jim, real quick. A very famous medium who has dedicated their entire lives to helping the living now and, and the crossed over, and the spirits. And the reason they had to skip so much time in between, the reincarnation part, because they had to spend so much time healing on the other side and understanding everything they did. They actually sat with people that they conflicted with in the life to try to talk it through. And as both had been more ascended in their minds and their thinking now, and they try to sort it out. And this time chose to come in as a psychic with abilities. They had to go through a lot. They knew they were going to have to go through a lot as a child, like a fast tracker to go through to, get your points here again. And I guess you could say, and now dedicated his whole life to help, because he was a war general when he was here the last time. He had always been in war, and he had caused so many people to go to their death and their suffering. And that, ripples out, that goes into the families and such too for generations. And they had the amount of stuff they had to go through, and it wasn't a suffering and a pounding and you did this, you did that. It's not like that. It's like, I did this. How could I have handled that differently? Did I really have the right to do this? Was this actually, those kind of things? And you ask yourself, why do people are people heroes when they reincarnate here? It's because we're like a prison planet almost, and we're almost instantly thought of as heroes when on the other side we decide to reincarnate here because we know it's going to be so tough. So you got to blame yourself, right? Right, Jim? Go ahead.
Yeah, and something else that came out in that is something that I hear so often from spirit from the other side. And basically it's in the context of this presentation. He just states, the other side is deeply concerned and involved in our world, so much to cause concern. And that's something we find so frequently, that the other side of the veil is indeed engaged. Now, I still don't have a clear picture of exactly how much, what power they have or anything like that. But to sit there and say that we're operating in a vacuum in our side of the veil and they're in a separate veil, that is false. There's an interrelation there that's so powerful. And maybe it's the connection through prayer, but they definitely, spirit, whether it's close and familiar or whether it's, on a broader scale, such as former world leaders or whatever, there is certainly a level of concern and involvement of what's going on in this world. And the fact that came through with Mr. Flint's thing, there was so much in that, to me, just spoke volumes. And sort of, I if I had been in that room, there would certainly have been a couple questions I would have loved to ask Mr. Churchill.
I bet.
Because he had his own, while he grew up knowing the Bible and the Judeo-Christian, he certainly wasn't your standard religious man. In other words, he didn't have your traditional relationship in that sense. It wasn't all about Christ. And so I wouldn't have expected some of like biblical references or references to the Savior to really have come forward in anything Churchill said. And of course it's absent.
Well, you're a different person after you get over there. You have, and from what I gather, in a lot of ways, you see it. Look, we've got to have villains here. I mean, this is not it. This is, if you think about, if you want to believe in dimensions and other places and where beings exist, do you really think we're the best that could be? Look at me.
Right.
We still have war. We still hurt each other here. From what I understand, there are other dimensions and other places where they're so evolved. Some of them have evolved so much they've evolved out of emotion, I believe, and you're coming back here trying to figure out what's all this crying and hugging about. So there's that. And then there's the ones that kind of sort of got it right, but it caused something else to happen. I think every set of beings are trying to get it right, whether it's good or bad and everything in between. But if you believe in that the soul can go on, and once they go on, that this is not it, and we're supposed to learn, and this is school, why wouldn't we get the final after, you know what I mean? And go, well, hold on now. You just thought that this was it. There's more. You can go back, you can stay here, you can learn, you can teach others, you can take care of cats or kids or fish or, if that's what your soul decides to do for a while, it's your free will, just like you can talk yourself into your own little, kind of paranormal box, and some of these ghosts get stuck in where they can't leave a room, or they can't leave a house, or they can't leave a piece of property or a picture or whatever it may be that they're stuck to, like the Titanic people being stuck, to pieces of coal. I mean, how many times have I told that story? And hey, Bart, welcome in. Told that story about people collecting, buying coal that actually happened to be real coal from the Titanic. They pulled up from the bottom. They're always going to try to find money off of tragedy. It's horrible. And they wouldn't do it if people didn't buy it. So these people get it, and they put it, this one lady put it on a window ledge, and the next thing she knows, she sees this angry looking, confused engineer type from back in the day, covered with dirt, happened to be coal, standing at the window that the coal is sitting on the ledge. Crazy stuff. And there's multiple stories, multiple things stuck to the Titanic, but all these different coal stories. They said, some very high percentage of the coal that they've sold in these gift stores and stuff comes back. Just like rocks from certain islands in Hawaii and, other things. It's insane.
A couple years ago, we were down in New Smyrna Beach, Florida with our friends, and there was an antique store and a strip mall then. So we go in it. And as soon as I walked in, oh my God, it was this wave of energy, and it wasn't good. And I'm like, what in the hell is that? So I walked back, and it was about 3/4 the way back in the store. And it was a showcase there, and in it was all this Nazi item, medals and rare pictures, and I went, oh my God. And it was just emanating like waves. And so I go up at the end, I go up to the owner of the store, and I'm like, man, that's a wild showcase you have back there with all the Nazi memorabilia. And he wasn't specific, but he said, yeah, and I wish it was the hell out of here. He wasn't specific as to what, but I'm telling you.
All of that. One of the worst things that happened to me was when Mario brought home that World War II, it was a relic, a rifle, whatever. Jim, I promise you, I'm not going to. I felt it coming down the road in the car. Like, what's that? Something's coming. Something wicked this way comes. You could feel it, and it was getting stronger. It was so strong, and I've told this story before, guys. that I met him at the door, I think, with the sage. You know, by the time he got in the front door, I had to, what do you got? Put it down. Don't bring it in the house. What do you've got? And sure enough, he had it. It was a World War II. Can you imagine the, you know, the energy that can get stuck into such
Yeah.
a thing? You know,
So well, that's basically, you know,
pretty good. I like it. And, you know, I like it too, because people, it also shows how people change, and somebody that would be responsible for saying this and this, you know, you think that's why I told about the general and people too, and history, and, you know, so much happens. Look, guys, it would be all for naught if people didn't learn from it and have to go through something on this side. I wouldn't be the first person. My dad is one of them, you know, that changed so much when they crossed over and shed all of that kind of, and saw what they did, and really, you know, look back. And then also what happens, I believe, and what I've heard more than once, is somebody like that that goes through that can now ascend to the fact where they get together with other spirit guides to help people that are in the now making those decisions again, and try to influence them in the right direction. And, you know, it's not working if we're going to be in a surrounding where we're getting pelted with every kind of thing. Your pineal gland's getting covered. They're trying to mess with your, you know, your DNA, you know, separate you from your source, separate from your life, your light source, really. And, you know, confuse you with all this stuff coming at you and propaganda left and right and up and down. And, you know, really, what chance do you have? Well, you do, because light beats dark. And as long as you know what's happening, you know, even if we forget momentarily, we can go back and stop and regroup, like we said in the beginning, and do the breathing techniques, get the crystals, get the help, do the things, you know, pick what you're going to use when you're going to incorporate into your routine, you know, and continue to do that, and do it so much that it's an instant fallback. It's like, you don't have to tell yourself, like, what was that thing that they told, you know, by the third and fourth time, you're gripping onto that steering wheel white knuckle, because you just want to ram the car in front of you, or get out and give somebody what for, you know. And you just, instead of doing that, bless them, forgive yourself for having the feeling, and breathe. How many videos do I have say just breathe? Next step. You don't have to fix all the problems, because listen, they're throwing a lot of stuff at you, and some of it you don't even know about. And I'm trying to find the link right now, but if people are getting migraines and joints are hurting more, it's not just the storms. They're pulsing out waves, and I'm going to see if I can pick it up. I can't really say it. So, all right. So there's a thing, and most people have it in their house, and they have popcorn in it. Okay. And don't stand in front of that either. And you shouldn't even have one in your house, to tell you the truth. I do. I'd be a hypocrite if I said I didn't, because I do. But if there's a pulse and there's a map, and it'll show you, and it starts at about 9:00 at night, Eastern America time. I don't know where it's, you know, how it's affecting other people in the globe, but I can tell you here. And they're throwing out extra while you're sleeping, just to mess with you. They're not doing it to help you. So whoever's doing that, who has the power, who gains from it? That's all you have to ask. Light beats dark. Who has the power and who gains from it? And then you know what the problem is, so you can rally against it. So I highly recommend you do this. And I'm going to try to again say this in code. If you have a cell phone, laptop, whatever, Android, try to get an app. There's free apps out there, just like there's the ghost hunting apps and everything else. And get you a Geiger counter and walk around your house and your yard. And see if you have any spots where you're getting way too much of these. E dash, M is for Mickey, F is for fill in the blank. So there you go. And see if you've got any spots in your house. Say you've got a meter that might be intelligent. Check that. See where your kids' heads are. See if where your children are playing. If you have a lot of this, if it, you know, goes up high. There's a lot of good free ones, but if you're going to do a free one, pick one that's around a 4.5 rating and do 2. And then see if the information backs up, because you can go where I used to have my head, and I did this a couple years ago, and the amount of waves that were coming while I was sleeping was crazy. And there's a few things you can do. I'm no expert on that. Look them up. Look at Brave browser, DuckDuckGo. I pulled up stuff on the Big G today. So look at that. But first you have to assess your personal, area, because I will tell you this. And again, no expert, but this is what I've been listening to a few today. And this is some of the information I want to give you. These kind of waves actually affect things like pollen, bacteria, microorganisms, spores from fungi, and things like that. So if you are asthmatic, they actually affect the outside of these pollen spores and things that make them more sticky. And when you get it into your lungs, it sticks and stays better. So there's things you can do against this. And I guarantee it's quite a few of it's in nature. Also, this one guy was going through a house and he found out this young boy had asthma, as well as he had something going on with his blood, getting a blood disease. Where he was playing, the stuff was off the charts in the play area, and where he was sleeping. They adjusted that, they changed it and did a few things and cut out the Wi-Fi and got ether cables and did some other things that they could do. And now the boy's doing much better. So look into this. It's a map, and it like in the United States, it's like around 9 p.m., something like that, to 9:30. And I'll see if I can find that map. But it's crazy. And if you're interested in it, research it. And if not, at the very least, get one of those little free apps or whatever and go around your house and just check it out and see where you're sleeping, especially where your head is. Okay. But Lynn, did you want to add anything to that we can actually say on the inner tubes?
I was listening to you code it, and I think that you covered it pretty well. What was the name of that YouTube was it Rumble platform? Who is the
I'm
guy?
trying to get it now so I can put the link in the chat. But go ahead.
Everybody needs to be aware of this because there are things being done that are beyond our wills, and they have to do with cooking. So talk about fried in your sleep. So definitely look into this and see what you can do.
I found it. I just got to find a way to get it into the chat. So let me do this. I'm pushing buttons, guys.
And while she's looking for that, I'm very proud to announce
here we go. I forgot
that my show on Gaia, my interview that I did with George Norrie on Gaia, is supposed to be coming out either this Wednesday or next Wednesday. I think they said this week. So anybody that's interested in seeing that, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I'm very proud of that. And
you go, girl. Yeah. So now where can we see it, sweetie?
It's actually going to be on Gaia. Gaia is a paid format. However, they are going to give me a link that I'll be happy to share with people so that they can watch it without having to. Well, I can't say. That I'll just make sure they get. So
I feel you.
Yeah, I can't. Because they. Anyway, I'm.
Okay, I think I got it. I think I did it. There it is.
Yep.
And it coming through?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, so if you don't have Rumble,
thank you,
I believe you can jump in. Okay, follow that in. If you need to follow it now and save it to your phone or save it to another laptop, what I'm showing you here is, whatever you want to think of the host or whatever, that doesn't matter. What you need to watch is just the part where he shows you the map and tells you what's going on. Then take that information and go look it up and, deal with it accordingly, because it is going to explain headaches, so many different things. So if you're, if you think you're just going crazy or you're getting really tired or different things are happening like that, please look into that. It may not affect you at all in your area or whatever, but there's the information. Okay. All right. Go ahead, guys. Anything to finish up on that? I got one little thing I could share with you. It's about 10 minutes long, so we will go over about 5 minutes, but I think it's worth it. But go ahead.
Can I throw one thing out?
Sure.
Information. This just came through this week. Somebody might be interested. Here it is. For the bash,
please. Yes, please.
Bash. for anybody, that's July 26th, 27th, and 28th at in Gettysburg. It's the Eisenhower Hotel and Conference Center is where we're hosting it this year, 2634 Emmitsburg Road, Gettysburg. But here's the big deal. On the grounds of the Eisenhower complex is a historical place called the Hoffman Mansion. If you look at Hoffman, you'll see it in. There's a lot of stories about it. It was a dairy farm during the battle, and it's sort of on the backside of Little Round Top and Big Round Top, and there was cavalry action back there, and also a lot of the Union wounded after Pickett's charge were back there in hospitals. It used to be open for investigations, but been closed for quite a few years because I think it had fallen into some disrepair. It will now, Pam and Steve were able to negotiate with the owners, and it's going to be available during the bash for investigations. I think they're doing like 2 or 3 hour investigations. I'm not exactly sure who's conducting them and whatnot, but it'll be the last time because it's being sold, and we may not have access to it depending on who the buyers are. So I'm actually going to do one of the investigations because I've never had that opportunity. There's a lot of stuff about it online. I mean, doors opening, closing. There's a black mass in the corners. There's a lot of people got some really interesting pictures and stuff over the years. So this might be the last time we have access to that. And let me throw out a phone number. Anybody who might be interested in that.
Heads up, mods.
The phone number is 717-521-7465, and they'll give you information about the Hoffman Mansion investigation. I understand it's going to go on for a couple days during the bash, so there'll be a lot of opportunity to get in there. But that just came through this past week.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for a place to set up a vendor table because I know that the Eisenhower is sold out. I do have a room reserved there, but
so you're going to be at the bash?
I'm going to try. I'm going to try.
That'd be so great to meet you face to face.
The thing is that I kind of, I'm up in the air about setting up a booth because I kind of want to set up a booth and, sell some books and meet people and sign things for people. But it's still, it's 75-25, and that 25 could flip it to 50-50. So I'm 75% invested in it and considering going, but there's a slight chance that something could occur that I won't be able to go. So I'm kind of, I don't want to go and rent a table and then not be able to go and have that $250 flushed down the toilet. So type thing.
So I think what you should do is just wait till you get closer till you know what's going on. And, things always shift. There's people that have one and then they need to get rid of it. There's people that have rooms and then they can't go, so they got to get rid of the room. I mean, everything pretty much shakes out for the bash about 3 days before we kind of know what's happening.
Well, I have the room.
Or week.
I just need a table. I need a table to set up with books.
I'm sure if you wanted a table, you got down there, the Barrys would figure something. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah.
If you are able to come, by all means, you got to one evening. You have to come over to the Hoover House
and do absolutely. And don't forget about that, guys. Listen, they won the contest. We thank you again if you went in there and you voted. I know a lot of you were trying to really help out because you believe in the cause. But this is a place where spirits can go, where light is the center. And this is where love is spoken, and it's done by the living, the dead, and the in-between. And I don't know how else to say it. It's you can go just as a lovely Airbnb. You can rent a room, you can walk around the town, everything. There's so many things in walking distance. There's so much history within a short driving distance. You can go in Harper's Valley, Antietam, Gettysburg. And Jim, you're also working on something. Before we go and I tell this story, I want you to tell a little bit about what you're working on about Lee's escape and something that you discovered. I think it's amazing. Tell a little bit about that.
Yeah, the Monterey Pass. A matter of fact, I do another podcast show on Wednesdays, and this Wednesday we're actually going to be that evening in the museum within the Monterey Pass doing the show.
Let's put that up. What's the link to that? What's the name and where is it?
It's on Yahoo, and I'd have to take my shirt off to
see it.
I'll post it up there. I can't even remember the name of it. It's
okay. Well, can you send me a link and I'll put it in the description after the show? Send me a link and I'll put it in the description.
But day 4 of Gettysburg, in other words, when the battle ended, Lee had between the wounded soldiers, munitions, cattle they had taken from the nearby farmers, he would have had a wagon train over 70 miles long. Well, you can't. And he's got 54 miles to get back to friendly territory. So what he wound up doing, he divided it into 2. So one of the wagon trains headed west toward Chambersburg, and then about 8 or 9 miles before Chambersburg, turned south toward Hagerstown, heading up to an area there in Maryland along the Potomac River to cross. The other he sent through Fairfield, right off of Middle Road, Gettysburg. You go through the little borough of Fairfield, and it comes up on a mountain clearance called Monterey Pass. And that night of the 4th, late at night in the middle of a raging thunderstorm, the 2 parties met. There were Union cavalry under Fitzpatrick and under Custer that had been sent by Meade to try to find where the heck Lee was. And they connected with him there. And you're not too far from the Maryland line at that point. Yeah. You're about 6 or 7 miles due east of Waynesboro. And so they met up there, and it was artillery, with all the lightning show and firing. He had all these cattle in a stampede, charging over the mountaintop. Cavalry flew over there. It was maybe one of the most chaotic battles of the war, raged through the night into the morning, and they ended up over there in Maryland. And eventually Lee had stopped his wagon, so he lost quite a few wagons, quite a few thousand men taken prisoner, and they halted the rest of the wagons. And then, as the battle shifted, they eventually brought him down, and then through Maryland to get over there to the part in Maryland to get him out. And when they got there at Riverside, it was all flooded, so it was really tricky. Lee could have easily been annihilated if Meade had pursued him.
Right.
But anyhow, it's almost not known. The locals don't even know about this. It's a 150-acre park. The ground is virtually untouched from the day of the battle. There's a few trails there, and we've been working with both historians and other paranormal groups. Last year, I think we hosted 3 investigations at night. We have full range of the grounds at night, and they open up the museum, which is full of artifacts from the battle. Wow. Very active. So
so much to do. I can't wait to get there. So much to do. I'll jump neck deep into that mess.
I think we've got 4 scheduled investigations this year. And then they just had a reenactment 2 weeks ago, and this is pretty neat. You had both Union reenactors and Confederate camping on the grounds. And as they looked into the woods and in the trails, they saw campfires. First, it was the Confederates, from where their vantage point, they were closer to that area. And I mean, we're talking like several dozen individuals seeing these campfires. Nobody's up there.
Nobody's up there.
There's
something about a reenactment, Jim. Something about a reenactment. It happens.
The next night, the Union soldiers saw the same thing, the same area. And they did have cavalry up there for the reenactment. I mean, it was very well done. So that's opening up, and it's virtually untouched. Something
always happening over there.
Yeah, that it's really exciting.
It's
We
really
have
taken off. I'm so proud of everything. The bash is going to be great. Listen, guys, go on Facebook, Gettysburg Bash. If you can't find that, look up Pamela Barry, Barry, and everything will be on her page. And just connect into that, and you can get over to the bash. It's going to be at the Eisenhower this year.
and it's for the
It's 3
family.
days.
They've got bouncy houses
all
and
kinds of
all
stuff.
that. We've got
Kids.
retired wrestlers doing wrestling
Yeah.
meets. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
All kinds of
not
stuff.
just paranormal,
Right,
but
and it's for wounded vets and kids.
yeah, it's one of the one of the larger
with terminal
fundraisers
illness.
in Pennsylvania. We raise
Yeah.
funds for PA wounded warriors and
They
children.
got great cigars. They got all kinds, just about everything you can imagine.
They even have a one
haunted
of the
dolls
vendors this year is does cheeseburgers and soup. So we got a little bit of
There
everything.
we go. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, as much as we love history here, this is a little story. Now, the very, very first episode I ever did on iTunes or anything else, I wanted to do a collaboration of all different types of ghosts, all different types of different, information. And each story taught us something about the paranormal, supernatural that you could pull from it. Is the chat moving, guys? Somebody throw something up here. I think we lost our chat. Is that not working? Guys, are you guys still here? Somebody throw something up.
Huh.
Okay, Lynn said boo, we're good. It just everything just froze there for a little bit, and I wanted to make sure that everybody could talk and see everything. Everything was running good. But it looks good over here. All right. Yep. Echo said boo, we're good. So they're just enthralled. History gets us excited, especially something we hadn't heard a lot about, because we used to get that when I lived in Alabama a lot. We go to skirmishes we never heard and really dive into the history, the local history. And I think it's important at this time to remember where we've come from too, and how hard people fought to get where we are, and appreciate, and I know a lot of people here feel that way, and it took a long, hard time to get here. I mean, I think I heard the other day somebody said, and when you look back over, it took 400 great grandparents to get you here. It took, this many people, so many ancestors go back, and you really don't realize how far back it fans, and all those people that had to get through whatever they had to get through at that time to survive to the point to get you here. And now it's your turn. And I'm proud of y'all. I'm proud of y'all for being interested in this and talking about it and trying to learn about it. We're all learning together. And one of the people I learned from when I started, I was lucky enough, to find something I could sink my teeth into, and that was Hans Holzer. So everybody that loves history and you're looking back on it, appreciating it, here's one right here. And our friend Ron Iacovetti has been here several times. Every time I see this fireplace, I see Ron standing next to it. But here's the story. Now, it's in the book. That's it right there. So you've got your history to what it is now. I just had it. Here it is. So, I wanted to show you this tea too. So, all the tools. Can you see it right there? There's lots out there. But listen, lavender, it's good for the inside too, as well as on top. It helps. I'm telling you. I've seen people with great anxiety getting much better just using lavender. So here's the book that it's in. It's Ghosts I've Met. If you can see the whole thing, Ghosts. It's probably backwards. I've Met by Hans Holzer. And within that is many, many stories. And he worked the way he worked with, he used to love to work with trance mediums. So again, what we said from the beginning. Hello, Travis. Love to see you, baby. Good to see you. Lots of healing light your way, sugar. So what he'd like to do is work with trance mediums, and those more famous ones, Sybil Leek and Ethel Meyers. And in this case, it was Ethel Meyers. So real quick, I wanted to tell you a little bit about this place here. If I can run this just right, I think I can. So here it is here, and I'm going to let this run as I tell you the story. So if you guys want to learn more about it, please get Ghosts I've Met, Hans Holzer. There's also a Holzer Files with our friend Dave that did a great story on this too. And Ron Iacovetti and Lourdes has done a lot of wonderful work here too. But this Mars Jumel Mansion, it sits on the highest elevation of Manhattan. It was built in 1765. So it really saw so many things. And one of the most prominent things was the Revolutionary War. Now, Washington took it over because of its vantage point, being able to look out over what Manhattan looked like during the Revolutionary War. Can you imagine? And really was a great place to hold. He lost it. And so it went back and forth several times. And he did get to go back and actually throw a little party and have some wonderful prominent people there, like Thomas Jefferson and some others right there in that living room. So it kind of played a really neat part, but also played another part in history. There was something really quite famous that happened there, and it's not going to be written on the walls when you go in, and it's not going to be in a lot of things, on the website, to go and visit the museum, because you can imagine why they wouldn't bring this up. And there's been a lot of controversy about it, and people have said, on news shows or documentaries or whatever, that a few people have come here and they've investigated. And even Hans Holzer was here. Nothing really big came from it. Well, I beg to differ because this is one of the most amazing things. This is the Jumel Mansion here, as it pretty much looks today and how it looked then. And here is the famous bed. Now, let me tell you about this bed. There was a man named Stephen Jumel, and Stephen Jumel was a very prominent wine merchant, back in this time. And he met a young lady named Elise. And Elise was very poor growing up. In fact, she was almost, street kid kind of, because the thing was, the rumor is, and there's some history to back it up, that her mom was a prostitute or into prostitution, much like our friend in the cellar there. And she became, as such, out of survival and the era and the time and everything else. Again, they were just like us. They had problems then too. Well, she meets this Stephen Jumel, and they've said that she's used trickery and all kinds of other things. She even, one of the really legends that come down with this is that she faked being ill, said she was going to die soon, and she just wanted to have, live a little life and everything else. He felt sorry for her and married her. And he was the type of guy that he wanted to just give her everything she wanted, and she's just getting better and better, and she's just lasting and lasting, and she's buying expensive furniture and decorating things. And, she's very flamboyant, like to be a socialite. That's what Elise was very famous for. And one of the things she was most proud of saying was that she had Napoleon's bed. And here it is. This is Napoleon's bed. And of course he had many beds, and this was one of them, but it was correct. It was Napoleon's bed. And she told everybody about that and everything else she could show off on. So as this goes on, there's there's lots of fight, and things back and forth. It was never a settled marriage, but she was very good at making money and selling real estate. So she's making money and she's spending it, but he's okay with that, and he's doing his thing. And then at one point in time, it seems that a tragedy happens. And Stephen Jumel, as it says, he died in a carriage accident. Okay. Well, he passed. She married again. And she continued on in this household. She lived to be 90 years old. I think it was 90. Where's my other notes? Yes. And the last couple of years, she really was losing her mind there a little bit. She was getting, quite in and out of it, as they said. So she passes, and some years pass, and the place becomes a museum. And there's some school children, and this is about early 1960s. There's some school children that are going on a field trip for the museum, and they're with their teachers, and they're waiting for the curator to come and open the museum or whatever. And they're out playing and pushing and, making noise. And all of a sudden, the doors on this big house on the balcony fly open, and a woman in period dress comes to the balcony and says, "Stop making all that noise and all that ruckus and all that," and she's yelling at them. And then she huffed off, and they said as she went through the doors, it seemed like some of them said she looked like she disappeared. Well, they're all shook up. The curator shows up. They open the doors. They tell her what happened. And as they walk in, they see a big portrait of, get off my lawn, a big portrait of this woman they just saw on the porch. And there happened to be one of the dresses that she was seen in on the porch on display on a mannequin in the hall. So, of course, that started the investigations, and the curator wanted to look into getting someone in here to look into the hauntings and the things going on in the Jumel mansion. And as I mentioned, that as you see, look back now, some headlines or documentaries will tell you that nothing much happened with the 2 investigations that Hans Holzer had with Ethel Meyers. They are documented again in the book Ghosts I've Met. They are documented on several other journals, because they had people there from, I'll tell you here in this little clip, the local news crews, I believe one of the larger news crews in New York, because they're in New York, and several other people, including the Daughters of the Revolution, in the room. Now, the reason Hans Holzer goes is because his curator, looks to him. He's, parapsychologist, involved in universities, and very prominent this time coming up, and his name's getting to be known. Calls him in, and he's asking a few things about what's going on. And she tells him about the kids and wants to know there's some other things happening. So he goes in and they have a little seance. Now, Ethel works, the way she works is unlike Flint. She's a trance medium, and she has a guide that comes through. Her guide's name is Albert. Okay. Albert comes through, and they work really well together. And Hans knows Albert, he's familiar with him. And sometimes Albert will come in like Mickey did with Leslie Flint and introduce things and kind of set the mood for the, whatever's going on, and kind of does a walk around trying to get an idea of who's in the house and what are the ghosts. And he'll say things like, is there a female here that would have, wanted to end her life, or that was distraught and tried to do something, and it was, that kind of thing. And Hans, it's like, there's a few things that happen. And then he would have to end the session and go back and ask the curator if this matches history. And it did. So the first little seance that they have, or session, let's call it that, they are pulling apart the legend of the Morris Jumel house. And what had happened was, remember the little carriage accident that I told you about? Well, the curator comes to Hans and he says, well, we're getting this feeling. And she's talking about, a female that says, this is my house. And, I did, saying all these things. She's full of angst and she's very hard to communicate with. And then I'm getting another one here. Well, they sorted the young servant girl that wanted to take her life because she found out she was pregnant, and the guy ran away, and eventually they got that information. They sorted that away. And then who's this female and this man? Well, it turned out to be Stephen. And he's saying, coming through Ethel Meyers, and her side is hurting, and she's, and Albert's coming through and saying, we're getting blocked because if he tells the story, he says it'll get worse and people will be offended and be angry. He's scared. So Hans goes back and they have another session. And what occurs during that session actually tells the story of what happened to Stephen Jumel that night. What happened with Eliza after the fact was she got married within a year after he was dead. And who she got married to was Aaron Burr. And Aaron Burr was part of this whole thing. And you find that out through Albert. And when you hear what's happening here, Hans knew none, Holzer knew nothing of this. Ethel knew nothing of this. And they had to kind of, pick at the curator to say, do you think this happened? She said, well, that's always been the legend handed down. We don't advertise it. But yeah, that's been, and now the ghosts come back and confirm it, and you'll see how it ends. It's about 10 minutes, but I think it's worth listening if you're up for it. Here we go. This is me reading from the transcript. It's an edited version, but this part is as Hans Holzer put it. The chapter is The Ghosts at Jumel Mansion. If you get the book, that's where it is. Here it comes. Yeah, here it is. This was actually held on the anniversary of Stephen Jumel's death. Here we go.
Continue. On May 22nd, the anniversary of Stephen Jumel's death, they did just that. That evening, about 24 people gathered, among them journalists and writers from the New York Times, the Reader's Digest, the Journal, and Ed Joyce of the CBS. Ethel Meyers was told nothing about the significance of the date, nor had Hans discussed with her the results of the first meeting. The entire time, Ed Joyce had his tape recorder running at the foot of Napoleon's bed. Within a few minutes, the medium was again in a deep trance, and a male voice spoke through her. "Who are you?" I asked. "Je suis Stéphane." "Do you speak English?" "Doctor, doctor, where's the doctor?" "What is hurting you?" Hans asked. The voice was firm and defiant now. "I am alive, I am alive, don't take me away." "Did you have an accident?" "She tricked me." "Who tricked you?" "I can't breathe. Where is she? She tricked me. Look at her." "Don't worry about her," Hans said. "She is dead." "But I am alive," the entranced voice continued. "In a sense you are, but you've passed over." "No, no, no, they put me in the grave when I was not yet dead." "How did you get hurt?" Hans pleaded. The ghost gave a bitter snort. "What matter? I'm dead. You said so." "I didn't say you were dead." The voice became furious again. "She took it. She took it. That woman, she took my life. Go away. Go away." "I am your friend." "I haven't any friends." "That Aaron." "Aaron? Was he involved in your death?" "That strumpet. Hold him. They buried me alive, I tell you." "When did this happen?" "It was cold. She made me a fool. A fool." "How? How did she do that?" "All the time. I loved her. She tricked me." "I want to help you. I am bleeding." "How did this happen?" "Pitchfork, wagon, hay." "Was it an accident, yes or no?" "I fell on it." "You fell on the pitchfork?" "Look at the blood bath. And on Napoleon's bed." "What about the pitchfork?" Hans proceeded. "There was a boy in the hay, and he pushed me off." "Did you know this boy?" "Yes." "Give me her." "She wanted to be a lady. I saw to it." "I wasn't so foolish. I didn't see it." "What happened when you got home?" "She told me I was going to die." "Did you have a doctor?" "Yes." "Wasn't the wound bandaged?" "They took me out alive. I was a live man he put in the grave. I want to be free from the grave." Do you want me to set you free?" "God bless you." "It is your hatred that keeps you here. You must forgive. You must try to forgive." "She did it to me." Hans pleaded with the ghost to join his family and let go of his memories. "Did you realize how much time has gone since?" 100 years. 100 years? The medium, still in trance, buried her head in her hands. "I'm mad, I'm mad." "Go from this house and don't return." "Mary, Mary, Mary." Mary was the name of Jumel's daughter, a fact not known to the medium at the time. "Go and join Mary." Just as soon as Jumel's ghost had left us, someone else slipped into the medium's body, or so it seemed, for she sat up and peered at us with a suspicious expression. "Who are you?" "I'm a friend. Come to help." "I didn't ask for you." "My name is Holzer, and I have come to seek you out. If you have a name worth mentioning, please tell us." "Get out! Get out! This is my house." There was real anger now on the medium's entranced face. I kept asking for identification, and finally the disdainful lips opened in a cold tones The voice said, "I am the wife of the Vice President of the United States. Leave my house." Hans later found out from Mrs. Campbell that Madame Jumel did like to yell that at certain times, like, "Make way for the wife of the Vice President of the United States." So
It's true.
it was her.
She was a pisser.
"Did you marry someone else before that?" Hans asked. "Did your
Here comes.
husband die?" "Bastard," a hiss followed. "You've been dead 100 years, madam." "Did you murder your husband?" Hans inquired and drew back a little, just in case. "You belong in the scullery with my maid," she replied. "I will call for help." "There is no help. The police are on your trail," he suggested. "I am the wife of the Vice President of the United States. I will help you if you tell me what you did. Did you cause his death? The rats that crawl, they bite me. Where am I?" "You're between
Wow.
two worlds. Do you wish to be helped, madam? Where is Joseph? You must leave this house. Your husband has forgiven you. He has forgiven you. I adored him. Go away, and you will see Stephen Jumel again. Only the crest on the carriage, that's all I did." Hans pleaded with her to release herself from her
That's her.
grief and her madness and go join Stephen. He finally gave up trying to get her to go and join Jumel and tried another way. "Go and join the Vice President of the United States. He awaits you." To his surprise, this didn't work either. "He is evil, evil," she said. Perplexed, Hans asked, "Whom do you wish to join?" "Mary." "Then call
That's Mary.
out to her, and she'll join you and take you with her." "No crime, no crime." "You have been forgiven. Mary will take you away from here." He asked, "This is my house. I shall stay here." "This is no longer your house. You must go. You have been forgiven." Hans asked for the spirits to help guide her and asked if they could find Mary to help walk her away from the house. The struggle continued. "He is the only one I ever trusted. Christopher, Christopher," she volunteered finally. "It's not too late," Hans
It's your
repeated.
son.
"You can go join your loved ones. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye." Hans Holzer then asked Albert, Ethel's guide, to take control and try to clear up some of the confusion. "She's
Here it
no
comes.
longer in her right mind," he said. "Is she guilty of Jamal's death?" "Yes, it was arranged." "Who was the boy who pushed him?" "A trustee in the house. She told him to." "What about Stephen Jumel?" "He is in a better frame of mind." "Is there anything else we did not bring out?" "Who is this Christopher she mentioned?" "A sea captain. She buried him in Providence."
She killed him
Hans
too.
asked, "Did Aaron Burr help bury Jumel?" "That is true. Burr believed Madame Jumel had more finances than she actually had." "What about the doctor who buried him alive? Is his name known?" "They couldn't stop the bleeding." "Was Aaron Burr in on the crime?" "He is very much aware that he is guilty. He still possesses his full mental capacity." With that, he asked Albert to help Ethel Meyers come out of her trance, and she was herself again, remembering nothing of the ordeal she had gone through the past hour.
An hour.
Hans finishes by saying that Jumel died in 1832, and as far as he could find, the first ghostly reports date back to 1865. And he asked the questions. Could his remains disclose any clues as to the matter in which he died? If he suffocated in his coffin, would not the position of his bones so indicate? Stephen Jumel is buried in the Old Catholic Cemetery on Mott Street. Hans put in many requests to reopen the grave and have the body exhumed to check, but he was denied each time. And he finishes by saying, "If you have ever tried to reopen a grave in the city of New York, it is easier to dig a new one. Believe me."
Ain't that something? What a story. What a story, man. And, I mean, you can pretty much say that there's a story of ghost communication through a trance medium that pretty much solved a murder. Because what I didn't tell you was in the beginning, after this first investigation, the curator was mentioned there. I can't remember her name, Miss Carol or something. She said that she had read letters, she had read, kept up with documents and things, and of course only put forth what the museum and the historical society would allow her, and they kept all this kind of under wraps and just promoted, of course, these wonderful people lived here, and he died in a carriage accident. But the real story under the lines was that she again coerced the servant boy to hide on the hay and push him into the pitchfork. He set the pitchfork up, set it down. He got it into his left side, which is why when Ethel Meyers first walked into that house, she started pulling to the side and she was getting sharp pains as she went up to the stairs and went straight to Napoleon's bed. That's when she laid down there. I mean, she knew nothing about this. It's just amazing. And the story was that once he was brought to the bed and the doctor came, the doctor was in on it. She was in on it. Aaron Burr was in on it. The doctor left and had him bandaged. She tore the bandages off and let him bleed to death. He passed out from lack of blood. They thought he was dead, buried the poor guy alive. Now, that's a story to where you would get stuck in a house, rattling around, two spirits that aren't seeing each other in the same house, a murder solved, and the right souls with the right intent crossing them over and ending all that and getting them to forgive each other. That's what it's all about.
Cisco, does that mention anywhere in that story which side he wound up getting stabbed on?
Left.
Okay, because I
you were getting it. I think it would. I could be wrong. Look,
while that was starting to unravel, I got just under my breast on the right side. I got it's even a little.
I'll go back. I'll go back over it because he does say as Ethel's going up the stairs how she's leaning to the side, and I could be wrong, so I'll check and let you know in the morning.
Check and see, yeah. Let me know because if honest to
That'd be fun.
even right now, it's just under my breast
the
on
poor
the
guy.
right side. I got a really sharp pain. But
oh my gosh!
Right side, nothing on the left.
Wild. What a story. I mean, that's just and everything. For time, I didn't put it all in there because it's a long story. You can read the whole thing. Ghosts I've Met. You can get the book and read it. And there's so many stories like this where you're really going to pull from that the little things like it's your hate that it anchors you here. As soon as he let go and he let him talk it through,
Wow.
I mean, it's amazing, right? And Albert comes back, and Hans and Ethel knew none of this beforehand. They go down there, and she tells them that story. Well, this was the scuttlebutt, that was going around behind the scenes that she did that, and Aaron knew, and he thought she had a little bit more money than she really did. That she was playing, she did. He married her thinking he was going to get helped out of his situation. He was so bankrupt and messed up.
Yeah,
they both deserved each other. Yeah, they deserved each other at that point. So they both got, so they're all around happy ending. And there you go. Lynn, anything to say on that and talk us out, babe?
No, I'm enthralled. I'm listening to all of what you're saying. And that's amazing that, that they can tell on people. It just, it's even like that. It's even like that heart transplant that we were talking about beginning where, that the spirit of the girl basically came through the heart to the girl that was the recipient, and she was able to identify the killer. So they can definitely do that. It's very, very.
If I remember correctly, she was getting flashbacks. She got the heart transplant. Yes. She started getting flashbacks. It was
many stories.
It was many months before she finally started getting
so many stories
of who, But like Lynn said, the heart has the second highest amount of memory cells, second only to the brain.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
People don't realize that. They think
that's amazing. I didn't know.
Yeah, they just think of it as
makes
a muscle
so much sense.
That pumps blood, but it doesn't. It holds memory as well. And that's why we're
such a divine creation. I mean, truly. And listen, people, you're stronger than you think you are. Your words have power. Use them wisely. Your thoughts, your energy, don't waste any energy on people that don't deserve it at this point. Do you understand what I'm saying? Pray for them, move on. Throw good energy, move on. Happy thoughts, move on. And see if that helps you through, because it's the drain. The trick is that they suck you into their energy. And, whether they're sent, by, others wielding, think about the teacher. Can you imagine? You're sending your kids to school and you got somebody up there zapping your kids with spells. Buddy, I'm telling you what, you better get up you better get up to work and start throwing that light out there. You know what I mean? Because they're coming to win,
Vivian posted the movie Return to Me. A very similar theme about a girl gets a heart transplant and starts. Yeah, I saw that. It's a sweet movie. It's a romance, but it's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, The Ravine, Nemesis, excellent flicks. So many out there right now that are really working on it. Whatever fills you and doesn't drain you, do it. Hug a tree, whatever it may be. Eat the cookie. Dance barefoot in your kitchen, and thank you guys for being here tonight. Again, Lynn, you've got that coming on. You're going to keep us posted on that. And we'll be back here in the last Sunday of the month, as always. And Jim, we're going to have you back again. We can talk about this forever. I say, let's do this once a month at least, because it's so much, and it's fulfilling and we all get fed. And don't forget your breathing, whether you want to say Om or you want to do holy oil. I don't care if you have a super soaker filled with holy water. I get it all. I always said that with whatever. It's like, all wisdom is not found in one place. I want it all. Bring it all. I was like, come on, Mike, we got something we got to go do. I need your protection. Let's go. And I talked to Archangel Michael like that, it's just, you just take all the stigma off of it, guys, and embrace the light. Plain and simple. If it's good.
Week. It was fun.
I love you. Good night, sweetheart. My love to the family. Good night, Lynn. And listen, guys, we have something on the way out here. What are we going to play? I got to find you something good. And Ted left a little early, so he's not going to get any get to see the skeleton. So let's do a little dance and listen. Take your shoes off and dance. Say what you want to say, sweetie.
Now, one more thing. I'm getting ready to start the class for the Mace Energy. It's the MEM program. And I'm going to, I had mentioned in the room, we've got 15 people. I will be happy to, once I get this completed in 4 to 6 months, I will be happy to give it as a gift for free to anybody that's in the room right now. It helps with post-traumatic stress. It definitely heals stuff for a lot of people. And the thing is you don't have to dredge up all your crap.
Right.
You just go through 1 to 6 sessions, 1 to 6 sessions. And it's, and I had it done on me and it works. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm going to become one. So
there you go, baby.
We're all family here. We appreciate you supporting Cisco.
Thank you. Hit the like, please. Share it out. Get in the comments. Back me up.
And subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Absolutely. And those people I've already talked to Jack. I've talked to Dimension. That they would like to have that done, and I will do that for them. As a matter of fact, I'm going to need a few people to do that on anyway in order to be able to get my licensing. So,
well, there you go. There you go.
So we help out each other.
and look at her books. See which one resonates with you. Get mine. Read that. See if it matches up to some of your experiences. I hope you get something from it. Meet us here. I hope to see you guys. Hope to get a couple mysteries out. And tomorrow night, Steve Stockton and I, if we're both ready and able, because everybody's been getting sick or something's been weird. I'm telling you, we're getting hit from everywhere. You got to send the love darts out because they're sending theirs. So, but tomorrow night we are doing the amazing story of John Keel, Mothman, Indrid Cold, Apol, and the wonderful town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And quite possibly, I'm going to have to eat a little crow, which I'm fine with, on the whole cornstalk curse. I'm going to share a little bit of that, more information with you on that, because that could very well be true. And that holds a little more water for me now after doing some research. So I'm sharing all that with you tomorrow night. We're gonna have fun there. And on the way out, kick off your shoes. And if you can't beat the blues, dance to it, baby. All right. Good night, Lynn. I love you so much. My love to your family and everything else. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad your headache is gone and the lavender works. Go to nature, baby.
You helped me with that. Yes, and to your family as well. Love you guys.
There you go. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Chat. Thank you so much. Hit the like on the way out. If you're not subbed, consider doing it. We have dancing chickens. We have dancing ducks. We have stars coming back to life to dance again to wonderful music just for you. Good night, gatekeepers. Good night, Bobby, Echo Leaf, Jack. Good night, everybody. Vixen Doe. Kat, how you doing, girl? Come on in here. Lindsay. Good night, Ted, wherever you are, Lord Connor. Froze, I saw you here. Good night, everybody. Michael Acciana. You know what? He's coming too. That's tomorrow night? He's coming. He had to go on, he went to New Orleans, and he's coming after that, so we can tell us the stories of New Orleans, too. I had to click in. There you go. Dance, baby. I love you. See you tomorrow night. Be good humans. Keep the lights on.